Chapter 88. Lin Xian's sword presence attracted everyone's attention. Even Zhang Qian was shocked. I must kill him quickly. Zhang Qian had a bad premonition. Blood wave triple slash. The long saber glowed with a red light, like a sea of blood. Zhang Qian's spirit power surged. He held the saber with both hands, raised it above his head, and slashed down. The red saber light was like a wave of blood. It carried a sinister aura as it drew a 5-meter-long arc of light in the air, rushing towards Lin Xian. With one slash, half of the life and death arena was covered. Is this the power of a rank 9 condensing meridians? Too savage. The surrounding disciples exclaimed. This power was more than twice as strong as before. Whirlwind clouds. Lin Xian activated the power of the sword presence and used the Gale sword art. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 green whirlwinds, each of which was more than 6 meters tall, whizzed out. They formed countless gusts of wind and rushed into the blood-red waves. Lin Xian waved his sword again, creating another 3 whirlwinds. Each whirlwind was strengthened by the power of the sword presence. The invisible power stirred the surroundings. The air shook like a raging wave. The blood wave was torn into countless pieces, disappearing into the whirlwinds. What? He can actually break Zhang Qian's attack. Is this the true power of the sword presence? It's too strong. The underground disciples exclaimed. Zhang Qian's face was pale. The long saber in his hand continued to slash. He had completely used the blood wave triple slash, but it was all dissolved by Lin Xian's sword presence. He had never expected this result. For a moment, a strong sense of defeat surged in his heart. On the other hand, Lin Xian became more and more courageous. Ever since he used the sword presence, he didn't use any movement skills. Instead, he stood in the same place, swinging his sword fiercely. Seeing Zhang Qian's expression, Lin Xian was happy. His plan had worked. In fact, after using the sword presence so many times, he was very weak. However, he and Zhang Qian were competing with confidence and willpower. The seed of sword intent not only strengthened his attacks, but also constantly changed his soul and belief. His willpower and confidence in martial arts far exceeded those of his peers, reaching a height that others could only look up to. On the other hand, Zhang Qian was getting weaker and weaker. His aura was getting weaker and weaker. Humph! A cold snort resounded in the air like a clap of thunder. Lin Xian's expression changed. This was a warning from Elder Shui, and it was very likely to disrupt his plans. Sure enough, Zhang Qian was startled awake by this voice, and his back was covered in cold sweat. Why would I admit defeat? I'm a 9th-stage meridian condensation martial artist. How could I be afraid of a 7th-stage meridian condensation martial artist? Zhang Qian's eyes grew brighter and brighter, and his aura gradually recovered. His originally dim spirit energy was once again suffused with a blood-red glow. I won't lose. Zhang Qian threw his head back and roared. His blood-colored aura surged up into the sky, and it almost seemed as if his saber were becoming one with him. Zhang Qian's transformation caused everyone to cry out in alarm once again, while Elder Shui's expression eased up quite a bit. The law enforcement elder glanced at Elder Shui and did not say anything. After all, Elder Shui was also an elder and had the same status as him. There was no need to anger him over a little brat. But to the side, Morong Qinling frowned. Elder Shui's actions clearly broke the rules, but she had no right to stop him. Lin Xian also cursed inwardly. He could not allow Zhang Qian to recover. Slash. With a cold shout, Lin Xian urged the seed of sword intent with all his strength. In the next moment, it was as if he had become one with the seed of sword intent, and the sword aura on his body rose once again. It was as if a giant sword was standing between heaven and earth. It's here. It's this aura, Luo Qingshan muttered. He had seen this sword aura at wind-resisting cliff last time. What? How can he still increase it? Not only was Zhang Qian stunned, but everyone was stunned. Lin Xian slowly raised his sword and slowly slashed down. His movements were very slow, but Zhang Qian could not dodge it at all. It was as if this was not a sword, but a giant mountain that directly smashed down, making it difficult to dodge. Puff. Zhang Qian's face was pale as he spat out blood and flew backwards. He was defeated by this vast and boundless aura. His faith seemed to have been destroyed in an instant, and his eyes dimmed. Whoosh! Lin Xian used the phantom thunder steps, and his body flashed out like lightning. The long sword in his hand turned into a green gust of wind, aiming for Zhang Qian's vitals. This was not an arena battle, but a battle of life and death. There was no victory or defeat, only life and death. Bang! An invisible force blocked between him and Zhang Qian, like a chasm that was difficult to cross. Lin Xian was pushed back by this force. His blood and qi roiled, and he almost spat out blood. It was too powerful, and not something a pulse-condensing realm martial artist could use. Suppressing the roiling spiritual power in his body, Lin Xian suddenly turned around, and his eyes were as cold as water. In front of him was the law enforcement elder and the others. Among them, Elder Shui stood up from his chair and raised one hand slightly. He was the one who stopped Lin Xian. Whoosh! Everyone turned to look at Elder Shui. Even the law enforcement elder beside him frowned slightly, his expression darkening. "What is the meaning of this, Elder?" Lin Xian asked in a low voice. "You have already won. Where it is possible to make mistakes, one should be lenient." Elder Shui said indifferently. At the same time, he secretly transmitted a message to the law enforcement elder. The three sects' martial competition was about to begin, and they could not lose a disciple like Zhang Qian. Lin Xian's heart sank. The thing he was most worried about had happened. Zhang Qian was a vicious person who held grudges, and his aptitude was not bad. If he let him go now, it was very likely that he would be killed by him in the future. Lin Xian would not do this, and he did not believe Elder Shui's words. If he was the one who lost, Elder Shui would not have stopped him. The life and death arena has its own rules. I hope Elder will not interfere. Lin Xian was expressionless. The disciples below were shocked. Lin Xian dared to contradict an elder. He did not want to live anymore. Elder Shui's face was gloomy. He had said the same thing to Morong Qianling, but he did not expect Lin Xian to return it so quickly. However, he was an elder of the sect. How could he allow a small disciple to offend him? How dare you? This is the sect's decision. How dare you disobey? Elder Shui suddenly shouted. A vast aura surged out from his body, forming an invisible hand that pressed down on Lin Xian. The law enforcement elder sighed, while the faces of Morong Qianling and the others changed greatly. This force was abnormally huge. It was like a huge mountain that pressed down on Lin Xian's body. In just a moment, his body suffered a heavy blow. The bones in his body made a sound and countless blood beads emerged from his body. It was as if he had turned into a bloody man. Do you know your mistake? Elder Shui said indifferently. Wrong? What did I do wrong? I don't accept such an unfair decision. Lin Xian gritted his teeth and said, Humph. Elder Shui snorted coldly, and the force increased again. Elder Shui, what you're doing is unfair. Don't forget that countless disciples are watching you. Morong Qianling could not help but speak up. You also want to rebel against the sect. Elder Shui suddenly made a move and restrained Morong Qianling. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian's heart sank. He looked up to the sky and laughed. His smile was bleak. It was a life and death battle, but because the opponent was an elder's disciple, he was forced to stop. He refused to resist, but was mercilessly suppressed. The world was unfair, and people were not righteous. Everything was because he was weak. If he was strong, no one would dare to treat him like this. If he had an elder behind him, Elder Shui would not dare to make a move. No one can control my will. Lin Xian's body suddenly underwent an astonishing change. Chapter 89. At this moment, the unyielding will within Lin Xian's body completely erupted. The sword intent seed trembled and fused into it. The mysterious small sword in his body shone brightly and wrapped around him. A tyrannical aura erupted from his body and collided with Elder Shui's power. Pung pung pung. The life and death arena shook. A long sword phantom appeared above Lin Xian's body and broke through everything. The pressure on his body also gradually receded. Elder Shui's expression changed slightly. He could feel Lin Xian's resistance, but he didn't expect Lin Xian to be able to break through his pressure. One had to know that the difference between the two of them was huge. Lin Xian was only a 7th-stage meridian condensation realm martial artist, but Elder Shui had already stepped into the Spirit Sea realm. Although he didn't use spirit power, the pressure from his realm was not something any meridian condensation realm martial artist could withstand. Stubborn resistance. Elder Shui's palm suddenly pressed down, and the entire void froze. Lin Xian's body was pressed down again, but in the next moment, he released a huge sword soul phantom and broke through all obstacles. Elder Shui's power was completely broken, but Lin Xian's aura was still rising. What? How is this possible? He can actually block the Elder's attack. All the disciples were dumbstruck. Elder Shui's pupils shrank. The disciplinary elder and the others beside him were shocked. This aura. The disciplinary elder was excited. This is a large success sword force. No, it's already surpassed large success. It contains a trace of will. Sword intent. Could it be sword intent? The disciplinary elder's eyes flashed. At this moment, Lin Xian's will merged with the sword intent in his body and erupted with an unparalleled aura. This wasn't the power of spirit power cultivation, but a transformation of the spirit and soul. The dark clouds in the sky were pierced and scattered, as if they were split apart by Lin Xian's sword. The sun shone on the life and death arena. Lin Xian was expressionless. The sword light in his eyes flickered, and his every move carried a fierce aura. On the life and death arena, I will live and he will die. Lin Xian drew his sword and drew an arc in the air. No, Zhang Qian was terrified. Even if he had the power of a rank 9 Ningmai, he couldn't use it at this moment. Although his cultivation was higher than Lin Xian's, his willpower and conviction were far inferior. Junior, you dare. Elder Shui was furious. His body flickered with radiance, as if a divine flame was jumping about. As the sword chi flashed by, a bloody hole appeared in Zhang Qian's glabella, and he collapsed to the ground. Lin Xian turned and faced Elder Shui without fear. Everyone, stop. Just as Elder Shui was enraged, a majestic voice rang out from the void. Immediately after, several powerful auras appeared in the surroundings. These auras were extremely powerful, some of them far surpassing Elder Shui's. Sword intent, it really is sword intent. Although it's only a trace, it's definitely sword intent. In the void, a purple-robed man sat high in the clouds. His eyes were like divine light as he stared at Lin Xian. Linger, a woman in palace attire, appeared beside Murong Qianling. With a wave of her jade-like hand, she pulled Murong Qianling to her side. Master! Murong Qianling cried out in surprise. At the same time, several figures appeared. They were all elders of the sect. These people looked at Lin Xian with excited expressions. Are you willing to worship me as your master? The majestic man in the clouds asked. Senior brother Duanmu, this young man is Linger's half-disciple. If he wants to worship someone, he should worship me. The woman in palace attire said. The surroundings were in an uproar. These elders were actually fighting to accept Lin Xian as their disciple. This change was too fast. First, Lin Xian was suppressed by Elder Shui. In the blink of an eye, Lin Xian was actually being fought over by the elders. Elder Shui's gaze was uncertain, and his face was ashen. The law-enforcing elder beside him also smiled bitterly. Lin Xian was also stunned. He didn't expect such an outcome. For a moment, he was stunned, not knowing what to do. At that moment, a lazy voice sounded in his mind. I think that kid in the sky is not bad. Why don't you worship him as your master? Lord Alcohol. Lin Xian was pleasantly surprised. Are you awake? I was woken up by you, Lord Alcohol said lazily. We'll talk about this when we get back. Hurry up and choose. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said respectfully, Thank you seniors for your kindness. However, I already have a master, so I can't worship any of you as my master. What? He actually rejected it. The group of inner sect disciples were about to go crazy. Did this kid know what he was talking about? These people were definitely old monsters in the sect. If he could worship one of them as his master, he would definitely have a meteoric rise in the future. Not only were the disciples stunned, But even the group of elders were also stunned. In that case, I won't make things difficult for you. The purple-robed man in the clouds sighed. However, as a disciple of the Mystic Sky Sect, I hope you can bring honor to the Mystic Sky Sect in the future. Seniors, don't worry. I will definitely work hard, Lin Xian said. In the spectator stands, Elder Shue's body slowed down as he heaved a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Lin Xian would make things difficult for him after becoming the disciple of the purple-robed man in the clouds. What a fool! Elder Shue sneered inwardly. As long as Lin Xian's identity didn't change, he had plenty of ways to make things difficult for him. Xiao Xuanzi, why don't I know that you have a master? Lord Alcohol was curious. You are my master. Lin Xian transmitted his voice. Lord Alcohol, Lin Xian's eyes darted around as he said again, Seniors, Elder Shue's attack just now has damaged my soul and mind. I hope that you can give me some spirit herbs. Oh? The experts immediately looked at Elder Shue, especially the purple-robed man in the clouds. His eyes were like two divine flames as they landed on Elder Shue. Elder Shue's body trembled as his eyes were filled with fear. He cursed inwardly as he gritted his teeth and took out a palm-sized herb from his storage ring. This is a 1,000-year-old ghost needle herb. It has great effects on soul recovery, Elder Shue said as he endured the pain. Thank you, Elder. Lin Xian received the herb and flipped his palm, handing it to Lord Alcohol. Kid, not bad, Lord Alcohol said with a smile. All right, you may all disperse. The purple-robed man's voice echoed in the air as he vanished. The others quickly left as well. Elder Shue glared at Lin Xian before flicking his sleeve and leaving with a gloomy expression. Lin Xian was secretly on guard. Although he had used the purple-robed man to suppress Elder Shue, he couldn't guarantee that Elder Shue wouldn't find trouble with him in the future. Zhang Qianyi is dead. Next, it's time to challenge the core disciples. Lin Xian's eyes were resolute. He still had a long way to go, so he couldn't let his guard down. Ignoring the astonished gazes of the crowd, Lin Xian quickly left. Wherever he passed, the inner sect disciples would make way for him. Their faces were filled with fear. Thinking back to when they first entered the inner sect, most of them wore looks of disdain. But now, facing Lin Xian, apart from the core disciples, most of them had to retreat. Duan Fei, Jiang Yulong, and company wore bitter expressions. The youth who had been competing with them a few days ago was now far ahead of them. It was so much that they could only look up to him. As for Shangguan Lu Yun, his eyes flickered as his fighting spirit soared. In the crowd, there was a pair of venomous eyes staring at Lin Xian's back. It was a blue-robed youth. His eyes were terrifyingly gloomy. Chapter 90. Murong Qinling looked at Lin Xian's back as her eyes flashed. Behind her, the woman in palace attire sighed. With his strength, I estimate that he will soon challenge the core disciples. At that time, he might be able to enter the trial grounds of blood. Trial grounds of blood, Murong Qinling exclaimed. The trial grounds that open once every 7 years. The woman in palace attire smiled. This time, a batch of disciples with potential will be sent in. Even you will have a chance to enter. This time, you must seize the opportunity. Trial grounds of blood? Murong Qinling's eyes had a trace of excitement. Lin Xian was unaware of these matters. He returned to his residence and activated a simple defensive array. Then, he treated his injuries and consolidated his realm. Inside his body, his spiritual energy's potential had been stimulated under Elder Shue's pressure. The 8th spirit vein had loosened a lot. Lin Xian took this opportunity to constantly circulate the longevity art. 4 hours later, he broke through to the 8th stage of the meridian condensation stage. The internal injuries on his body were quickly healed under the effects of the longevity art. Lin Xian turned his gaze to the sword intent seed. The golden sword intent seed was much larger than before. The aura it emitted was alarming. Lin Xian knew that he had finally comprehended a trace of sword intent and not just sword force. I didn't expect your sword intent seed to germinate so quickly. Lord Alcohol was amazed. You now have both the thunder and wind attributes. You can consider fusing them into the wind and thunder attributes. Since you have acknowledged me as your master, I will teach you well. Lord Alcohol said with a serious expression. Following that, Lord Alcohol began to ask about Lin Xian's cultivation progress, including some of the martial arts he had learned. Lin Xian answered them one by one. Through his communication with Lord Alcohol, he learned that he had only reached the first level of the longevity art. Other than the long sword art, he had reached the large success stage of the Phantom Thunder Steps. He could condense a Thunder Phantom. He was only missing the last move of the Gale sword art. As for the Protection sword art, he was at the peak of the first level. However, Lin Xian's greatest harvest was the seed of sword intent. He had comprehended a trace of sword intent, and it had increased his attack power by several times. Now, if he met a martial artist of the 9th stage meridian condensation period, he would be able to put up a fight. Moreover, the seed of sword intent also had many potential benefits. For example, Lin Xian's mental strength and willpower were extremely strong. This would allow him to have a strong resistance to temptation illusion attacks in the future. Under Lord Alcohol's guidance, Lin Xian began to consider fusing the Gale sword art and Lightning sword art together. The next morning, Lin Xian went to the herbal hall as usual. His main purpose was to pay attention to a special mission, a mission to rescue the 100 Herb Hall, in which he could obtain herbs that could restore the soul. Although Lord Alcohol had awakened, Lin Xian hoped to have more of these herbs on hand just in case. This mission was still in progress, but according to the previous situations, the chances of success were not high. When Lin Xian asked again, the Deacon Elder informed him that the team that had accepted this mission had failed, and Lin Xian could accept it. Without any hesitation, he accepted the mission. However, this mission was a 6th level mission and was extremely dangerous. It was not something a single disciple could complete. This was a 5-person mission. Lin Xian took a token and went back to wait. 3 days later, news came from the herbal hall that there had been a new change to the mission. Lin Xian prepared everything and went to the herbal hall. However, he was somewhat surprised by what happened next. The Deacon Elder stood to the side with a wry smile and explained the reason to Lin Xian. It turned out that the number of disciples who had come to accept the mission had far exceeded the stipulated number. Isn't this mission very dangerous? Why are there so many people? Lin Xian was puzzled. Because there was a core disciple who accepted the mission this time. So all the disciples rushed over like ducks, the Deacon Elder explained. In this situation, a simple competition is required. Only the strongest will have the chance to receive the mission. So that's how it is. Lin Xian understood. He strode over and said to the group of people, I took a token for the 100 Herb Hall mission. If anyone is unconvinced, you can challenge me. The quarreling crowd completely quieted down after hearing Lin Xian's words. The group of disciples looked at Lin Xian cautiously, their eyes full of fear. They had seen Lin Xian kill Zhang Qian with their own eyes. Furthermore, he did not back down in the slightest when facing Elder Shui. They did not dare to provoke such a fierce person. So it was junior brother Lin who took one of the tokens. If that's the case, let's fight for the remaining 3. A disciple chuckled. The Deacon Elder was surprised. He thought that these people would snatch it by force, or even gang up to bully him. After all, Lin Xian's cultivation was not very high. However, he did not expect that when this group of people saw Lin Xian, it was as if they had seen a core disciple. They even spoke carefully. How strange. The Deacon Elder was amazed. Not long after, 3 people won the battle. These 3 people were all at the 8th level of the Meridian stage. 2 of them were youths, and 1 was a young girl. The 3 of them greeted Lin Xian, then stood together to wait for the other core disciple. Through the 3 disciples, Lin Xian learned that the core disciple was called Fan Chong. His cultivation was at the 9th level of the Meridian stage, and he was ranked 9th on the stone tablet. Core disciples were definitely existences that all inner sect disciples had to look up to. Every core disciple was abnormally strong, and could be said to be the king of the same stage. Even fighting across realms was not difficult for them. Therefore, this difficult level 6 mission became extremely popular with the addition of a core disciple. And this mission was a rescue mission. 100 Herb Hall was located in a border town in Yunzhou. Because it was attacked by demonic beasts, the town was in danger. Most of the people from 100 Herb Hall escaped, but a few of the pharmacists were trapped in the town, along with hundreds of precious herbs from 100 Herb Hall. The surviving members of 100 Herb Hall sent a request for help to the Black Heaven sect, and thus this mission was created. Lin Xian understood the mission while waiting for the core disciple to arrive. However, after the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, no one appeared. After an hour, still no one appeared. Could it be that senior apprentice brother Fan forgot? A few disciples guessed. Lin Xian frowned slightly, but did not say anything. After waiting for a full 2 hours, the core disciple finally appeared. This was a youth with an arrogant face. His eyes were always looking up, and even his chin was raised. He casually swept a glance at Lin Xian and the others, then frowned and said, "With such low cultivation, you're just going to die." The expressions of the 3 youths behind Lin Xian changed. They did not expect the core disciple to say such words. Although they could not compare to the core disciple, these words were too hurtful. Lin Xian also frowned slightly. He glanced at the people behind the core disciple and immediately understood that this guy wanted to bring his own people. However, he had accepted this mission first, and it was very important to him. How could he just give up like this? At this moment, the core disciple sneered and said, "Hurry up and take out your mission tokens, or else you'll have to bear the consequences." Chapter 91. Core disciple Fanchong was very domineering. The moment he came up, he asked everyone to hand over their mission cards. The faces of the 3 disciples who received their mission cards became very ugly. The 3 of them looked at Lin Xian together. Fanchong frowned and inadvertently glanced at Lin Xian. "You don't understand what I'm saying?" He didn't go to Lin Xian's life or death battle, so he didn't recognize Lin Xian. Among the core disciples, only 2 people had gone to watch. They were the leaders of the battle group and the divine might group. The other core disciples had no interest at all. Lin Xian said in a low voice, "We took this mission with great difficulty. You want us to give it up with just a few words? Isn't that too much?" "Too much? Do you think you people have the qualifications to do missions with me?" Fanchong said disdainfully. "If you don't want to go with us, you can give it up." Lin Xian didn't back down at all. "Brat, do you know who I am?" Fanchong was furious. He took a step forward, his body emitting a dangerous aura. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, "I'm not interested in knowing. Also, I won't give you the mission cards." "Senior Fan, he's Lin Xian." Someone behind Fanchong whispered, "Lin Xian? The Lin Xian who killed Zhang Qian." Fanchong froze and then retracted his aura. "If you really are that Lin Xian, then you can stay and do missions with me," Fanchong said, "but the 3 of them must hand over their mission cards." Fanchong forcefully snatched the 3 mission cards and then said in a commanding tone, "Brat, come with me." "Sorry, I won't do missions with scum like you," Lin Xian said indifferently. Hearing this, the nearby people's faces all changed. Fanchong couldn't compare to Zhang Qian. He was a true core disciple, and his cultivation had long since entered the 9th stage of the meridian condensation period. "You're courting death." Fanchong's eyes shone with a terrifying light, and the temperature within 3 zhang of him dropped. "Don't think that you can be so arrogant just because you killed Zhang Qian. In the eyes of core disciples, Zhang Qian isn't even worth a fart." Fanchong's palm emitted a cold aura. His voice was like the winter wind and snow. "I'll give you a chance. Come with me. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Deacon Elder, as you can see, I can't do the mission with this kind of person, so I've decided to complete the mission alone." After Lin Xian finished explaining to the disciplinary elder, he walked away. During the entire process, he didn't even look at Fanchong. "Very good. I haven't been angry in a long time. I hope you can let me play a little longer." Fanchong laughed out of anger. He had already decided that he would kill Lin Xian during the mission. After all, the mission was extremely dangerous. Furthermore, Lin Xian was doing it alone. Even if Lin Xian died, no one would suspect anything. With a sneer, Fanchong left with his group in a grandiose manner. Lin Xian was depressed. He had encountered scum like this while doing a mission. Not only did he snatch the mission, but he also ordered him around like a lackey. "Do I look like a lackey?" Lin Xian curled his lips. "It looks like I'm not famous enough. That child has an ice elemental cultivation technique. It will be difficult for you to deal with him now, unless you fuse the wind and lightning sword arts together. Lord Alcohol's voice sounded. I still have time. I don't think he will take action anytime soon. Lin Xian nodded and sent a voice transmission. However, at my current level, isn't it too much of a stretch to fuse the cultivation techniques alone? Isn't there a direct wind and lightning cultivation technique? Yes. Lord Alcohol replied straightforwardly. Lin Xian was speechless. Then why did you make me fuse it myself? He roared like an angry lion cub. I just want to see how far you can go, Lord Alcohol explained. No matter how good someone else's cultivation technique is, it's still someone else's. Only the moves created by yourself are the most comfortable. Although you can't create them by yourself now, I want to nurture your consciousness. Lin Xian calmed down. He was just joking with Lord Alcohol. He understood this logic, so he tried to make some changes to every martial art. Let me see how difficult this so-called 6th-level mission is. Lin Xian strode forward. In a hall in the sect, Elder Shui was sitting in a dignified manner. Elder Shui, not only did Lin Xian kill senior brother Zhang, he even contradicted you. He deserves death. Ling Zhe said hatefully. I've long found him an eyesore. Why don't you let me? Elder Shui looked up slightly and glanced at Ling Zhe indifferently. Then, he slowly said, I think you have a grudge with him. You are still too inexperienced to use me as a tool. Ling Zhe's body trembled as he said respectfully, I wouldn't dare. However, if you can really eliminate Lin Xian, I'll take you in as an inherited teachings disciple. Upon hearing that, Ling Zhe suddenly looked up. His eyes were filled with excitement as he quickly said, Elder, don't worry. I'll definitely do it. He was overjoyed. He had only wanted to give it a try, but he never expected Elder Shui to use him as a condition to become an inherited teachings disciple. From the looks of it, Lin Xian really made him want to kill him. There were two types of Elder's disciples. One was the nominal disciple. They were under the Elder's tutelage and name. Normally, they would not receive any guidance from the Elders. The other type was the inherited teachings disciple. This type of disciple had a very honorable status and was above the core disciples. For example, Murong Qianling was an inherited teachings disciple. Not only could she receive the inherited teachings of the Elders, but she could also receive status and resources from the sect. Lin Xian, you've even offended the sect Elders. Let's see how you'll escape this time. Achoo! Lin Xian rubbed his nose and muttered in dissatisfaction. What a scam! They actually didn't rent it to me. Just now, he had gone to the Imperial Beast Garden to rent a spiritual beast as a means of transportation. In the end, he was mercilessly rejected. The reason was that the place he was going to was too dangerous, and they wouldn't let him rent it. Lin Xian could only helplessly come out. He knew that the reason was just a pretense. The real reason was probably because someone was playing tricks. If it wasn't Elder Shui, then it was Fan Chou. Lin Xian guessed that Elder Shui might not have known that he was going on a mission. The most likely person was Fan Chou. Thinking about how those core disciples had the backing of the sect elders, it was very easy for them to secretly do something. You can treat this mission as an experience. There's no need to rush. Lord Alcohol said, Who knows, you might encounter some soul-type herbs along the way. That's the only way. Lin Xian used his movement technique and transformed into a gust of wind as he moved quickly. 5 days later, in the forest, a three-eyed white-spotted tiger was running quickly. Sitting on its back was a black-clothed youth. He had delicate features, but his eyes shone like a sword beam. The youth was like a stone sculpture. He sat on the tiger's back without moving an inch. Even if the tiger demon ran violently, it didn't affect him at all. Roar! A fey beast covered in scales suddenly tore out of the forest. Its steel-like sharp claws grabbed at the youth on the tiger's back. Chi! Chi! The black-clothed youth used his fingers like a sword and gently swiped across the void. As though a golden line had floated past, the fey beast's body suddenly split into two from the middle. Blood and organs splattered across the ground. Counting the days, it's about time. The black-clothed youth muttered to himself. He didn't even look at the dead fey beast. Chapter 92. The youth riding on the tiger demon was naturally Lin Xian. He hadn't rented a flying beast, so he could only walk. Later on, Under Lord Alcohol's guidance, he stepped into a brand new realm, the soul realm. The root of this was the sword intent seed in his body. Not only could it strengthen his attack, but it could also strengthen his will and soul. Lin Xian had used the sword intent seed to form the embryonic form of a sword soul in his mind, allowing him to use some techniques. For example, he could see through illusions and control the mind. This rank 1 demon beast had been subdued by his powerful will. Lin Xian had used it as a means of transportation, and he had been studying how to use the sword soul to travel. Half a day later, the tall trees gradually became sparse. Lin Xian knew that he would soon be out of the forest. He patted the rank 1 demon tiger under him, urging it to speed up. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lin Xian looked around warily, his spirit energy ready to explode. Whoosh! Whoosh! Dozens of streaks of black light flashed and attacked Lin Xian, making rapid sounds as they pierced through the air. Golden lightning palm. Lin Xian remained motionless. Golden arcs of lightning appeared in his palm, filling the sky with palm shadows. Bang! 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 The black arrows collided with the golden palm shadows, creating waves of energy that broke the surrounding branches and branches. Whoosh! Whoosh! After a round of sneak attacks, the black figures hiding behind the branches revealed themselves. Lin Xian looked over, and his expression changed slightly. Dozens of black figures were floating in the sky. These creatures had the bodies of humans and the heads of eagles. Their bodies were covered in black feathers, and a pair of huge black wings constantly flapped behind them. Demon beasts. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He jumped down from the demon tiger and focused. These eaglemen are rank 2 demon beasts, and their strength is equivalent to the early stage of meridian condensation stage 9. You'd better break out of the encirclement quickly, Lord Alcohol warned. Lin Xian's figure flashed as he used phantom thunder steps. He turned into an afterimage as he ran toward the exit of the forest. Behind him, the eaglemen chased after him. Whoosh! Whoosh! The stage 2 eaglemen's flying speed was extremely fast, and they had bows and arrows in their hands, constantly attacking Lin Xian. Fortunately, they were in the middle of a forest, and there were many trees blocking their path. In addition, Lin Xian was constantly changing directions, so he was not injured. However, even so, Lin Xian was still a little embarrassed. This won't do. If I continue to run like this, once I leave the forest, they will definitely catch up to me. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He did not immediately leave the forest. Instead, he circled around the eaglemen. Try attacking. Lin Xian once again sent out palm shadows that filled the sky, and then jumped up, his body flying towards an eagleman. A green sword chi with golden lightning arcs around it quickly pierced towards the eagleman's chest. The eagleman let out a sharp cry, and at the same time, a pair of wings suddenly flapped down, forming 2 gusts of wind that pounced towards Lin Xian. Phantom thunder step? Lin Xian condensed a lightning phantom in the air, but his real body circled to the side, and the sword in his hand came crashing down. Bang! 2 gusts of wind hit the phantom thunder figure, releasing an explosion of light. The eagleman was injured by Lin Xian's sword chi, and half of his body was almost cut off. Whoosh! Whoosh! The injured eagleman lost his balance, and his body kept falling. However, the rest of the eaglemen all pounced towards Lin Xian. All kinds of gusts of wind and arrows continuously attacked Lin Xian. Whirlwinds scattered clouds. Lin Xian waved his sword twice again, forming 6 whirlwinds on the ground. All of them were suffused with green wind blades and rushed forward. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew in all directions. The 2 streams of air constantly collided, uprooting all the nearby trees and rolling them into the air. The eaglemen constantly flapped their wings to maintain their balance. Good chance. Lin Xian's body turned into a green lightning bolt and instantly rushed out. 3 gale thrusts. Protective sword chi. With the green sword chi protecting his body, Lin Xian suddenly stabbed out. 3 gale thrusts, each was equivalent to an attack. Not only was it incomparably swift and fierce, but it also moved a very long distance. With the first stab, Lin Xian arrived in front of the injured eagleman. With the second stab, he took away his life. With the third stab, Lin Xian successfully escaped. All these movements happened in an instant. The eagleman only saw 3 green sword lights in the air, and then Lin Xian's figure appeared, while the injured eagleman fell to the ground and died. With one successful attack, Lin Xian did not continue to fight. His body quickly disappeared into the forest. Behind him, the eaglemen were mad and furious. They let out miserable cries and madly rushed towards Lin Xian. Northgard City was a base of operations for humans. There were a large number of warriors and rich resources. It was also the closest base to the front line. There were many Sea of Soul Realm warriors guarding it, making it very safe. There were not even many demon beasts nearby. At this time, on top of the city wall, some armored warriors were patrolling. They were mainly monitoring the situation in the air. At this time, someone noticed something unusual. Outside the city gate, several auras were rapidly approaching. These soldiers looked nervous and were ready to fight. "Should we report?" someone asked. "Wait, it doesn't seem to be a group of demon beasts. It's just a few demon beasts." Among them, a small leader said. Everyone looked carefully and found that it was indeed so. A black-clothed youth was running quickly like lightning. Behind him were 6 angry eaglemen. What a fast movement technique! Even the second-rank eaglemen can't catch up. A soldier exclaimed. He can actually escape from 6 eaglemen. He's not simple. The small leader was also shocked. Kill the eagleman first, then interrogate him about his identity. Suddenly, several soldiers moved. Soon, 6 huge crossbows were set up, ready to shoot at any time. Release. With a command, 6 huge arrows flew out, each one more than 6 meters long, piercing through the air. Lin Xian used the phantom thunderstep and ran quickly. 9 eaglemen were killed by him, but the remaining 6 tightly surrounded him. They did not separate, giving him no chance to attack. Fortunately, the city ahead was clearly visible. At this time, 6 black arrows flew out quickly. They were like 6 spears, flying with a gust of wind. Pung 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 pung. The 6 eaglemen behind him were nailed to the ground, their bodies twitching. So strong. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. He could feel the power of the arrows. He was afraid that no one under the Spirit Sea realm would be spared. "Who are you?" A voice came from above the city wall. "I'm Lin Xian, a disciple of the mysterious Sky Sect. I'm here to participate in the rescue mission of the 100 Herb Hall under the orders of my sect." Lin Xian circulated his spiritual energy and said in a mighty voice. Soon, the huge bronze city gate opened. 2 groups of armored soldiers walked out and looked at Lin Xian cautiously. "Identity token," one of them said coldly. Lin Xian handed over the sect's disciple token and mission token. At the same time, he secretly sized up these soldiers. He found that these people's auras were strong. Their eyes were like knives. Moreover, they had a killing intent that ordinary disciples did not have. As expected of the front line, even ordinary soldiers are so strong. Lin Xian sighed in his heart. At this time, the soldiers also finished verifying Lin Xian's identity. One of the men with a scar on his face laughed loudly. "Little brother's skills are extraordinary. You can actually escape from 6 eaglemen. You're indeed a heroic young man." Chapter 93. Lin Xian smiled modestly. If this group of people knew that not only did he successfully escape, but he also killed 3 of them, he wondered what their expressions would be. "Big brother, where is the 100 Herb Hall I'm going to?" Lin Xian asked. "Little brother, you should enter the city and wait for 2 days. This mission has already been upgraded. I'm afraid it's not something that can be completed by 1 or 2 people." "Upgraded?" Lin Xian was puzzled. This means that the mission's difficulty has increased. However, since he was already here, he had to try no matter how difficult it was. Lin Xian followed these people into the city. "I'll take you to the combat hall first." The scarred man smiled as he led the way. The layout of this city was similar to other cities, but there were no ordinary people here. They were all martial artists from the body refinement to the meridian condensation realm. Lin Xian found that those with lower cultivations were mostly in charge of logistics, while those with higher cultivations were in charge of defense. Along the way, Lin Xian kept looking around and marveled in his heart. Not long after, he followed the scarred man to a mansion. Inside, There were many halls and countless pavilions. This used to be the city lord's mansion, but it was now a base of operations. The scarred man said that the combat hall was inside. Soon, the two of them arrived at the combat hall. It was located in a secluded area of the city lord's mansion. Walking into the combat hall, Lin Xian found that there were already many people inside. Most of them were youths with cultivations above the 8th level of the Meridian Condensation Realm. There were even some 9th level Meridian Condensation Realm cultivators. These people were all young elites, disciples of sects and aristocratic families. Lin Xian's arrival naturally attracted the attention of others. In an instant, countless gazes were imprinted on him. Meridian Condensation Realm 8th level, so weak. Who is this kid? Many people were puzzled. Lin Xian's cultivation was not outstanding. At least among these people, he was at the bottom. However, in terms of strength, it was a different story. This is Black Sky Sect's young hero Lin. He also participated in the 100 Herb Hall mission. The scarred man introduced. Young hero Lin managed to escape from 6 Eagle Men, and that's how he came to Beiwei City. The 6 Eagle Men have successfully escaped. Immediately, those disdainful gazes disappeared, and the youths in the hall began to seriously size up Lin Xian. Humph! A cold snort came from the front. Lin Xian raised his head and found Fan Chong sitting in front of him, his eyes dark. Everyone seemed to have noticed Fan Chong's abnormal reaction, and many of them had playful looks in their eyes. When can we make our move? Someone asked. Are we supposed to keep waiting? It's like this. Originally, this was just a simple rescue mission. We only needed to rescue the people trapped in 100 Herb Hall. The scarred man continued. However, a huge battle broke out in Mountain Overlook City not long ago. The situation there has become extremely dangerous. I'm afraid that it will be very difficult to rescue the people of 100 Herb Hall. Even if Mountain Overlook City is dangerous, it shouldn't be a problem if we dispatch some elites. Someone asked. After that battle, the general was poisoned, and the key to curing the poison lies in 100 Herb Hall. Therefore, the demons will definitely send more people. The scarred man sighed. I see. Lin Xian suddenly understood. It seemed that this mission wasn't simple. However, everyone, don't worry. When the time comes, Deputy General Lord Zhang will lead the elites and move with you. Anyone who can help will receive battle merit points. Battle merit points. The youth's eyes lit up. Aside from the medicinal ingredients, they had participated in this mission for the battle merit points. Seeing Lin Xian's confusion, the scarred man explained. These battle merit points can be exchanged for resources at any martial hall in Xia country. For example, secret manuals, divine weapons, etc. As long as you have enough battle merit points, you can exchange them. As for the battle merit points, it was distributed based on the completion of the mission and the performance of the enemy. Martial hall exchange for resources. Lin Xian nodded. He finally understood why these youths were so happy. It was because they could exchange for all kinds of resources. Xia country's martial halls couldn't be compared to ordinary sections. The things inside were all obtained by gathering the strength of an entire country. None of them were ordinary. At this moment, a young girl wearing a silver robe slowly walked over. Her long and narrow eyes were suffused with a cold light, like gems. When the silver-robed girl walked into the main hall and saw Lin Xian, her aura suddenly fluctuated. As if an invisible mountain was pressing down on them, all the youths in the main hall tensed up and found it difficult to breathe. Spirit Sea Realm. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, their eyes filled with fear. The silver-robed girl didn't look very old, about 16 or 17 years old. However, the aura on her body far surpassed everyone else. Fan Chong and the other rank 9 Meridian Condensation Stage martial artists were also shocked and couldn't calm down for a long time. At the Spirit Sea Realm, 9 spirit veins converged and formed a spirit sea in the body. Once formed, a martial artist's body would undergo earth-shattering changes. However, not every rank 9 Meridian Condensation Stage martial artist could enter the Spirit Sea Realm. Many martial artists were stuck at this stage for decades. This was a common occurrence. However, this young girl had actually broken through to the Spirit Sea Realm at such a young age. Her talent was frightening. Fan Chong took a deep breath. Perhaps in the entire Black Sky sect, only the myriad sword star could compare to her. The silver-robed girl was like a high and mighty king, looking down at everyone. To be more precise, she was looking at Lin Xian. I didn't expect to meet you here, Lin Xian. The silver-robed girl's voice was cold, without a trace of anger. Lin Xian? She actually knows Lin Xian. Fan Chang's pupils shrank. The others also looked at each other. Hello, little Yu. Lin Xian tried his best to calm down. His heart was in turmoil. This young girl was actually from his clan, and also from the Swordpool Manor's Lin family, Lin Yu. Oomph. The silver-robed girl Lin Yu frowned. Her aura crazily rushed towards Lin Xian, as if wanting to devour him. Lin Xian's body also surged with an aura that was incomparably sharp, as if it could split everything in half. This name is not something you can call me by. Lin Yu's aura receded like the tide. Then, she looked deeply at Lin Xian and left. Swordpool Manor. One day I will return. Lin Xian's sharp aura also gradually faded away. This scene made everyone look at each other. How did this young man know such a proud girl? Moreover, their relationship was somewhat hostile. Lin Xian didn't explain to the crowd. Instead, it was the scarred man who explained the silver-robed girl's situation. A 16-year-old Spirit Sea Realm martial artist, and also a master of weapon nurturing. She was in charge of the entire base's weapon nurturing. Lin Xian found a seat and sat down. His heart couldn't calm down. This Lin Yu's talent was only considered to be above average in the family. She wasn't the best, but she had already reached the Spirit Sea Realm. He was afraid that those people would be even stronger. There's still a year and a half left. I must return to the family before then and obtain a spot to enter the ancestral land. Chapter 94. On the third day of Lin Xian's arrival in Northgard City, there was still no progress on the 100 Herb Hall mission. During this period, many warriors went out to kill enemies and earn battle merits. Lin Xian found the scarred man again and told him his thoughts. What? You want to repair weapons to earn battle merits? The scarred man was surprised. I didn't expect you to be a weapon nurturer. How about this? Follow me, said the scarred man. Lin Xian followed him to the center of the city. After passing through the residential area, the two of them arrived in front of a hexagonal pavilion. The scarred man didn't stop as he led Lin Xian to the third floor. Master Mo, this is Lin Xian from the Black Heaven sect. He wants to repair weapons here to earn battle merits, said the scarred man respectfully. Oh, the Black Heaven sect? Master Mo looked at Lin Xian with interest. A smile appeared on his aged face. You know how to nurture weapons? A little. Lin Xian smiled. Try this. Master Mo handed Lin Xian a long saber. The blade was full of gaps and looked like it was about to be destroyed. Ordinary treasured weapons are worth repairing. If an ordinary weapon is damaged, it's better to forge a new one, said Lin Xian after taking a glance. Good. You do have good eyesight. This saber is indeed an ordinary item. Instead of being angry, Master Mo was delighted. Here are some low-grade human-rank treasured weapons. If you can repair them, I'll give you a satisfactory amount of battle merits. Lin Xian didn't stand on ceremony. He sat down and began to carefully repair the damaged human-rank treasured weapons. He didn't use the Swordpool Manor's techniques. Instead, he used the techniques taught to him by Lord Alcohol to slowly repair them. 2 days later, all 6 human-rank treasured weapons were repaired. They shimmered coldly under the sunlight. Master Mo was very happy and directly gave Lin Xian 30 battle merits. Over the past 2 days, Lin Xian had a certain understanding of battle merits. Killing a rank 1 demonic beast would give him 1 battle point. A rank 2 demonic beast would give him 5 battle points, and a rank 3 demonic beast would give him 20 battle points. After all, rank 3 demonic beasts were already equivalent to Sea of Souls realm warriors. Lin Xian repairing 6 artifacts was equivalent to killing 6 second-order demonic beasts. Don't underestimate a little bit of battle merit. In the martial hall, 1 battle merit could be exchanged for 100-year-old ginseng, while 10 battle merit could be exchanged for a low-grade profound rank martial art, and 20 battle merit could be exchanged for a mid-grade profound rank martial art. Lin Xian's 30 battle merits could be exchanged for a high-grade mystic ranked martial art or a low-grade man-ranked artifact. In the martial hall, if you had enough battle merits, you could even exchange them for spirit-level martial arts. There were also some natural treasures that would definitely attract people. Lin Xian was excited. He was looking forward to this mission. 5 days later, Lin Xian came to the combat martial hall once again. Is everyone here? A majestic figure stood with his back facing the crowd. Reporting to the general, all 16 youths have arrived, a soldier said respectfully. Hua. The majestic figure turned around and looked at the crowd. His gaze was mixed with a great pressure. Everyone who was looked at felt as if they had been electrocuted. A sense of fear rose from the bottom of their hearts. This wasn't intentional. Rather, the years of living on the battlefield made his every move carry an invisible killing intent. In this mission, we must rescue Divine Dr. Du. General Zheng's voice was sonorous and powerful. Following that, General Zhang began to lay out the battle plan. In fact, it was very simple. General Zhang would lead people to pin down the main firepower of the demonic beasts, and these sect youths would be responsible for rescuing the patient. Once they succeeded, they would immediately retreat. Although it was simple, there couldn't be the slightest mistake in the execution of the plan. Otherwise, not only would they not be able to save the patient, they might even lose their own lives. General Zhang led 7 soldiers as the vanguard. The 16 youths were divided into 4 groups. They would break out from 4 directions and finally meet at the 100 Herb Hall. Everyone was given a shield, a signal flare, and 3 recovery pills. After Lin Xian received these, he set out with the crowd. The group quickly disappeared into the wilderness. Each of the 4 small groups had a 9th-level condensing martial artist as the leader. He was responsible for controlling the entire group. Lin Xian wasn't in the same group as Fan Chou. Instead, he was in a mixed group. The one with the highest cultivation was Lotus Glory Sect's Feng Bufan. His cultivation had reached 9th-level condensing. The remaining 2 were Zhang Hao, a disciple of Lotus Glory Sect. The other was Lu Lan, a disciple of Zixia Sect. Among the remaining 3 groups, there were disciples similar to Fan Chou. In comparison, Lin Xian's group was the weakest. Feng Bufan's cultivation was the highest, so he was temporarily leading the group. Our group is relatively weak, but as long as we are united, I believe we still have a chance, Feng Bufan said. We'll go around the forest. Everyone, be careful. After the 4 of them left North Guard City, they entered the forest. Fan Chang's group also took a similar route to them. Feng Bufan, you have to be careful. Don't let some people in the group drag us down. Fan Chang sneered at Lin Xian and then quickly left. Feng Bufan was fine, but the other 2 disciples looked at Lin Xian with strange eyes. It's okay. Let them go first and help us scout the way, Feng Bufan said indifferently. Lin Xian smiled and didn't explain. The 4 of them ran south together. After an hour, Lin Xian suddenly frowned and said, Senior Martial Brother Feng, there's a wolf pack ahead. We'd better go around it. Wolf pack? How is that possible? There's clearly no movement ahead. Zhang Hao's face was full of disbelief. Feng Bufan was also puzzled. However, when he saw Lin Xian's confident face, he took a cautious action. Junior Martial Brother Lin, lead the way. We'll go around it. Follow me, Lin Xian immediately commanded. Feng Bufan was fine, but the other 2 disciples were somewhat dissatisfied. They didn't have any objections to Feng Bufan's command, but they were somewhat dissatisfied with Lin Xian. Lin Xian didn't care about what they thought and quickly led the way. The reason why he knew was because of Lord Alcohol's reminder. Although Lord Alcohol couldn't directly help Lin Xian, he could still sense things like that. Lin Xian and company made many turns as they carefully walked through the forest. Zhang Hao was displeased as he snorted. There's clearly nothing, but before he could finish his sentence, Fan Chang's angry roar sounded not far from their side. Following that, there was an intense spiritual energy fluctuation. What? How can this be? Cold sweat dripped down Zhang Hao's face. If they hadn't followed Lin Xian's instructions, they would have arrived at the place where the roar came from. The 3 of them looked at Lin Xian with a change in expression. Zhang Hao lowered his head and didn't dare say a word. Feng Bufan said gratefully, Thank you for leading the way, Junior Martial Brother Lin. He knew that Lin Xian and company had avoided a calamity. It's nothing. Let's hurry, Lin Xian said indifferently. Chapter 95. The group quickly moved through the forest. Lin Xian walked at the front, giving him a warning every time. 2 hours later, the four of them arrived at the outskirts of Mountain Overlook City. Lin Xian took out a map and the four of them began studying it. We'll be in Mountain Overlook City if we go further in. There are countless demonic beasts inside, so there's no way to hide. Feng Bufan pointed at an area in the middle of the map. This is where the 100 Herb Hall used to be. We have to break through the encirclement and enter. No wonder it's called Mountain Overlook City. It's actually facing the Taihang Mountains on 3 sides. Lin Xian saw that the forest was concave on the map. It seemed like they had to choose a direction to break through. Let's go and take a look. Lin Xian put away the map, and the four of them quickly rushed over. Soon, the group stopped again. This time, without Lin Xian's reminder, the 3 of them were alarmed by the pressure coming from the front. The demonic aura formed by countless demonic beasts was like an invisible spear that pierced in all directions. It's a pack of crimson flame wolves. Feng Bufan was alarmed. He suppressed his aura to the minimum, afraid of being discovered. Lin Xian stood rooted to the ground. On the surface, he looked like he was deep in thought, but he was actually communicating with Lord Alcohol. The eagle men are on the left, and the ground shell beasts are on the right. Lord Alcohol sensed and told Lin Xian, "Everyone, we have to decide which direction to go." Lin Xian said in a deep voice, "The crimson flame wolves are in front, the eagle men are on the left, and the ground shell beasts are on the right." Feng Bufan laughed bitterly. To be honest, the 3 of them didn't want to face it, but the reality was that they had to make a choice. We'll listen to our 2 senior brothers. Zhang Hao and Lu Lan became very obedient after witnessing Lin Xian's power. On the other hand, Lin Xian glanced at Feng Bufan and said, "I don't recommend taking the left. Between the middle and the right, which one do you think is better?" "We'll listen to junior brother Lin Xian." Feng Bufan's eyes flashed. He felt that Lin Xian had an answer. As expected, after he finished speaking, Lin Xian quickly said, "Let's go to the right." Compared to the other 2, it's easier for the ground shell beast to pass through. Lin Xian's decision was correct, because their strength was on the weaker side. Regardless of whether it was facing the agile eaglemen or the crimson flame wolves, they had no advantage. On the other hand, the ground shell beast was more focused on defense. If they just wanted to pass through, it would be relatively easy. In a moment, senior brother Feng will be in the front and I'll be in the back. You 2 will be on the sides. We'll maintain our formation. When we're halfway there, I'll switch positions with senior brother Feng, Lin Xian said. Right now, he was basically the leader of this small team. The 3 of them had no objections. They just waited for General Zhang to make his move. Not long after, there was a faint fluctuation of spiritual power in front of him, and there was a rumbling sound. "It's done." The 4 of them quickly rushed out. With Feng Bufan in the lead and Lin Xian at the back, they appeared in front of the ground shell beast. However, when they truly faced the demonic beast, they were still stunned. There was a black mass of over 100 ground shell beasts crawling in front of them. This demonic beast was about 2 meters long. It had a tail and 4 limbs. Its head was like a lizard's, and its body was covered in thick leather armor with hard poisonous spikes. Roar, roar, roar. There was a low roar. Over 100 ground shell beasts roared together. It was as if countless thunderbolts were exploding in their ears. Moreover, the demonic aura on their bodies condensed in the void, forming a strong willpower. Fear, murderous intent, bloodthirsty. There were negative emotions affecting everyone. Feng Bufan was fine, but Zhang Hao and Lu Lan were pale, and cold sweat kept dripping down their bodies. Among them, the calmest was Lin Xian. After all, Lin Xian had already comprehended a trace of sword essence. His willpower was abnormally strong. Even if over 100 ground shell beasts joined forces, they would not be able to do anything to Lin Xian. Moreover, the embryonic form of the sword soul had formed in his mind, which made his willpower as strong as steel. "Calm down, guard your mind," Lin Xian shouted in a low voice. His voice was like a sharp blade, cutting off all the negative emotions. Zhang Hao and Lu Lan woke up abruptly and gasped for breath. Thank you, senior brother Lin." The 2 of them were grateful from the bottom of their hearts. In the beginning, The two of them refused to submit to Lin Xian. Later on, they were shocked by his various methods. And now, Lin Xian was actually able to easily rescue the two of them in the face of the terrifying will that was as heavy as a mountain. Now, they had started to worship Lin Xian. Feng Bufan was even more shocked. In such a situation, he could only protect himself, but Lin Xian did not seem to be affected at all. This huge difference made him curious and fearful of Lin Xian once again. On the other side, when the ground shell beasts saw that the four of them were not affected, they were furious and roared even more crazily. In the void, the huge shadow of the ground shell beast formed by demonic aura moved slowly and slapped down with one of its claws. Strong winds blew, and the void trembled. This palm was like a mountain that was pressing down, making it impossible to resist. However, Lin Xian knew that this was only an illusory pressure on the spiritual level. Open! A dazzling sword ray surged out from his body. Behind him, there was a blurry giant sword that pierced through the sky. The shadow of the ground shell beast was torn into countless pieces like a piece of paper. Two golden sword auras flew out from his eyes and shattered the fragments into nothingness. Roar! Hundreds of ground shell beasts trembled and then rushed over crazily. Charge! Lin Xian roared. Suddenly, the four of them rushed over like a sharp sword. Shields! Feng Bufan shouted in front. Zhang Hao and Lu Lan quickly took out their black shields and circulated their spiritual power. A yellow light covered their spiritual power and formed a thick protective shield. At the front, Feng Bufan wielded a dark green long saber as he charged forward. His moves were bold, and he was incomparably ferocious. Lin Xian was in charge of repelling the ground shell beasts that rushed up. While ensuring the team's speed, he was also accumulating energy. The sky was filled with ground shell beasts, constantly jumped up and crashed into Lin Xian and the others. Golden lightning palm. A golden palm shadow flew out, sending all the demonic beasts near it flying. However, even more demonic beasts rushed out. Zhang Hao and Lu Lan held on tightly to their black shields and crazily channeled their spiritual power. Even so, they could still feel the huge impact from the shields from time to time. Fortunately, Lin Xian was not trying to kill these beasts. He was just trying to force his way through. The whole team advanced quickly. Gradually, Feng Bufan could not hold on any longer. Senior brother Feng, change teams, Lin Xian shouted in time. The two of them moved at the same time. Lin Xian appeared at the front of the team. In the next moment, a dark red sword appeared in his hand. Whirlwind scattered clouds. Lin Xian used a powerful martial technique. 3 hurricanes flew out in front of him and blew away all the beasts that pounced on him. A few beasts that forced their way forward were pierced through by Lin Xian's sword. Roar, roar. An obviously large ground shell beast pounced forward and formed a spiked ball in the air. It quickly turned towards Lin Xian and the others. The poisonous needles on its back flashed with a dark green light as if they wanted to take their lives. Chapter 96. Oh no, it's the leader of the ground shell beasts. Feng Bufan's expression changed drastically. Zhang Hao and Lu Lan, who were beside him, were also trembling. Get lost. Lin Xian's sword chi surged. Golden electric arcs bared their fangs and brandished their claws as though they were going to devour him. Junior brother Lin, dodge quickly. This ground shell beast leader is at least at the peak of the Meridian's condensing stage 9. Furthermore, its defense is extremely strong. It can even withstand a blow from a spirit sea realm warrior. Feng Bufan roared loudly. He even had plans to escape. Lin Xian didn't seem to hear him. His eyes emitted a dazzling light as he charged forward. Meteor beyond the heavens. The green spirit chi condensed into a sharp sword chi with golden electric arcs attached to it. The sword intense seed in his body trembled. Like a shooting star, it flashed past. Roar. The ground shell beast leader's huge body froze in midair as its demonic chi gradually faded. The next moment, a crack appeared in the center of its body and rapidly expanded. That huge body was split into 2 from the middle and shattered into pieces. Junior brother Lin. Feng Bufan was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Zhang Hao and Lu Lan were also dumbfounded. It was too shocking. The ground shell beast that even a spirit sea realm warrior couldn't deal with was actually split into two. How powerful was the attack? Lin Xian landed on a tree branch with a pale face. That attack just now was his strongest attack. Not only did he use his ultimate move, falling stars from the sky, but it was also driven by his sword intent. He used both the power of wind and thunder. That was why the scene just now happened. Roar, roar, roar. The death of the ground shell beast leader caused the demons to fall into a temporary silence. But moments later, all the ground shell beasts were in an uproar. More than 100 ground shell beasts rushed toward the corpse of the ground shell beast leader. Demonic chi surged from their bodies as they fought with each other. Feng Bufan and company were stunned, not understanding what was going on. These ground shell beasts are fighting for the demon crystal of the leader. You can leave safely. Lord Alcohol transmitted his voice. Lin Xian stood on a tree branch and looked down. There was a walnut-sized demon crystal in the corpse of the ground shell beast leader. It was like an emerald, glowing with green light. More than 100 ground shell beasts rushed toward it. Let's go, Lin Xian shouted. Feng Bufan and the other two reacted and hurriedly followed behind Lin Xian, quickly running into the distance. At the same time, in two other directions, two teams were in a life-and-death situation. The team led by Fan Chong encountered the frenzied attacks of the Scarlet Flame Wolves. Hundreds of Scarlet Flame Wolves brandished their sharp claws, pouncing and biting continuously. Next to him was a huge wolf that spat out fireballs the size of a human head. Whoosh, whoosh. The fireball was like a miniature sun, emitting a terrifyingly high temperature as it attacked the crowd. Senior brother Fan, save me! A disciple cried out in horror. Fan Chong turned around and saw a fireball land on the disciple, instantly burning him to ashes. Then, more wolves pounced on him. Further away, at the Eagleman tribe. The leader of this group was a young girl in a long green dress. She had a beautiful appearance and held a jade fan in her hand as she fought with a group of Eaglemen. Senior Sister Human, there are too many Eaglemen. What should we do? You guys go quickly. I'll bring up the rear. The young girl in the green dress said. Then, she used all her strength to activate the jade fan in her hand, emitting a jade green light. The entire fan continued to expand until it was over a meter long. Wind Spirit Slash. The young girl aimed at the Eagleman and used all her strength to fan. Suddenly, a violent wind blew and an enormous tornado flew out from the fan, stirring up the wind and clouds in the surroundings. Everything within a 10-meter radius was shrouded in astral winds. The Eaglemen were swept into the tornado, and the four of them quickly escaped. Half a day later, Lin Xian and the rest arrived at the center of Mountain Overlook City. Most of the buildings in the city were destroyed, and there were broken walls and broken limbs everywhere. From time to time, demonic beasts would appear. In front of them was a pagoda-shaped pavilion that had been cut in half. The top 3 floors had fallen to the ground, and the entire building was 70 to 80% damaged. The surroundings were filled with broken rocks and broken wood. Half of the hall's door had fallen, but the signboard above could still be seen clearly. 100 Herb Hall. It's here. Lin Xian and the rest carefully identified it and finally confirmed it. The 4 of them carefully walked in. The interior was also in ruins. Most of it had been smashed. Lin Xian and the rest found a safe place and sat down to rest. Fortunately, General Zhang and the rest attracted most of the demonic beasts. Otherwise, even if we found this place, it would have been difficult to enter. As Feng Bufan spoke, he swallowed a pill. Although they weren't injured, they had expended a lot of spiritual energy. Coupled with the mental stimulation, they were extremely weak. The 4 of them swallowed pills while Zhang Hao and Lu Lan sat cross-legged to regulate their breathing. Lin Xian took out a few pills and took out a map. According to our intelligence, the surviving members of 100 Herb Hall are hiding in the secret chamber. Now, we need to find the secret chamber. Lin Xian held the map and looked around. Inside his body, Lord Alcohol's voice sounded, Xiao Xuanzi, I'll take this opportunity to teach you the basic usage of soul power. Lin Xian saw that the 3 of them were resting and it wasn't convenient for him to move, so he asked, what's the usage of soul power? Soul power is a special kind of energy. It belongs to the spiritual willpower level. In general, Everything in the world is divided into two types. One is material, and the other is spiritual. The average person's soul power is very weak. Unless they have a special cultivation method, they can only cultivate their soul power when their cultivation reaches a high realm. But you are different. You have already condensed the embryonic form of a sword soul, so your soul power is much stronger than others. Furthermore, as your sword soul continues to grow stronger, your soul power will also slowly increase. Soul power has a myriad of uses. I'll first teach you the most basic probing insight. You also used soul power to subdue the tiger demon previously, right? Lin Xian asked. Yes, you used your powerful soul power to suppress the other party's soul last time. Now, I'll teach you other methods. Following that, under Lord Alcohol's guidance, Lin Xian began to use his soul power to probe the surrounding situation. Under his soul perception, everything around him became clear. All the scenes appeared in his mind, and all the details of his surroundings were crystal clear. He discovered that behind a broken stone pillar, there was a stone door that was blocked by several boulders. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't have noticed it at all. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he slowly walked over. If I'm not wrong, this is where they are hiding. Feng Bufan and the other two opened their eyes and walked over. The three of them carefully observed and frowned. With our strength, I'm afraid we won't be able to open these boulders. Feng Bufan sighed. These boulders are special rocks. I'm afraid only Spirit Sea Realm warriors can open them. Lin Xian nodded in agreement. He estimated that the boulders were probably harder than the ground shell beast's skin. It's fine. There are other teams. When everyone is here, we will take action, Lin Xian said. What we need to do now is to recover our strength as soon as possible. The four returned to their original spot and began to recover their strength. An hour later, a figure barged in. Chapter 97. Three figures quickly rushed in, the spirit energy fluctuations on their bodies extremely chaotic. Lin Xian and the other three stood up, cautiously looking at each other. At the front was a girl in a green dress, and behind her were two white-clothed youths. The three of them were covered in dust, and their hair was a bit messy. They looked a bit disheveled. It's you guys. The girl in the green dress was the first to shout. The two youths behind her also stared blankly at Lin Xian and the others, their eyes full of confusion. Lin Xian and the others, besides Zhang Hao and Lu Lan, Feng Bufan and Lin Xian were full of energy, and there wasn't a trace of a wound on their bodies. Did you not encounter the monster horde? The three of them were full of confusion. How is that possible? There were hundreds of ground shell beasts. Feng Bufan said with lingering fear, but luckily junior apprentice brother Lin was there, so we escaped. Junior apprentice brother Lin? The girl in green and the others looked at Lin Xian, and when they saw that he was at the 8th level of the Meridian stage, their eyes widened. How is that possible? A mere 8th level Meridian stage disciple actually led Feng Bufan and the others safely through the monster horde? The girl in green and the others found it hard to accept. They had lost a disciple to escape, and this was because the girl in green was at the peak of the 9th level and had a middle human level treasure. Human apprentice sister, hurry up and heal your wounds. We'll open the stone door together. Although the three of them had all kinds of doubts, they still sighed and quickly sat down to recover their strength. A moment later, another person entered. This time it was Fan Chong and the others, but there were only two of them, and their injuries weren't light. Fan Chong's face was pale, and his clothes were tattered. The other disciple was even worse, with wounds on his chest and arms. Damn that pack of crimson flame wolves. Fan Chong gritted his teeth and cursed. Fan Chong, hurry up and recover your strength, Human said. Fan Chong nodded. He noticed that Human's team was also missing one person, and she looked battered and exhausted. Immediately, his heart calmed down a little. After all, Human's cultivation was much higher than his. But when he saw Lin Xian and the others, his body froze like a statue, as if he had seen a ghost. Lin Xian and the other three were unscathed. Even their clothes were not damaged. It was as if they had not encountered the horde of demonic beasts. How is that possible? It must be because they didn't encounter any demonic beasts. Fan Chong constantly comforted himself. He did not believe that Lin Xian and the other three could pass through the demonic beasts unscathed. Lin Xian naturally didn't explain. He didn't even pay much attention to Fan Chong. At that moment, he was constantly learning how to use soul power from Lord Alcohol. In such a dangerous environment, the more he learned, the more assurance he had. Fan Chong was indignant. He never thought that Lin Xian and the others would have such heaven-defying luck. He sneered and said, "Feng Bufan, you guys are really King lucky. You actually didn't encounter any demonic beasts." Heaven-defying luck? Feng Bufan bitterly smiled. If he hadn't experienced it himself, he probably wouldn't have believed that Lin Xian had such ability. He lightly said, "It's not that we didn't encounter any horde of demonic beasts. It's just that junior brother Lin is too strong. We were only able to survive under his leadership." To the side, Zhang Hao and Lu Lan nodded like chickens pecking at rice. Lin Xian? Fan Chong was stunned. How could a mere meridian condensation stage 8th stage kid have such great ability? Feng Bufan must be hiding something. Fan Chong sneered and ignored him. He began to focus on recovering his body. "We're still missing one team. I wonder if we have a chance to appear?" Lin Xian and the others had more or less recovered. They began to consider what to do next. "Let's wait a little longer. If they don't appear in an hour, we'll start moving," Human said. They seized the time to recover while Lin Xian used his soul force to investigate the surrounding situation. Oh, not long after, his brows suddenly twitched. His body shot out like lightning and quickly stopped in front of a row of drawers. Opening the drawer, Lin Xian found a few herbs inside. Oh, it's actually Fu Luohua and Thousand Needles grass. They look to be around 100 years old. Xiao Xuanzi, your luck is pretty good. Lord Alcohol laughed. Lin Xian had a strange expression. He put away the herbs and then circulated his soul force. Lin Xian managed to obtain a few herbs each time he made a move. However, his actions were noticed by others as well. "Herbs!" Human exclaimed and then slapped her head. This was the 100-herb haul. There must be some leftover herbs. Thus, she began to search as well. Feng Bufan and company also joined the search team and found something. Fan Chong's eyes turned red as he watched from the side. He also wanted to join in, but he was still injured. Furthermore, his spirit energy was depleted. If he didn't recover in time, he might be in danger. "You, hurry up and find the herbs." Fan Chong roared at the disciple beside him. "I am injured." The disciple had a long face, but when he saw Fan Chong's murderous gaze, he could only grit his teeth and search while cursing in his heart. The few of them kept searching and found something. However, they all looked at Lin Xian with strange gazes. Often, they would only find one herb after searching several places. However, Lin Xian would obtain herbs every time he took action. It was as though he knew the location of all the herbs. Involuntarily, Lin Xian's image in everyone's hearts became mysterious once again. Among these people, Lin Xian's harvest was the greatest. He found dozens of herbs, each of which was 100 years old. "When we return, we can brew spirit wine." Lord Alcohol smacked his lips as though he couldn't wait. An hour later, the last team still hadn't appeared. Lin Xian and company didn't wait any longer. Instead, they prepared to destroy the boulders. "Let's join forces and shatter the boulders. Only then can we contact the 100-herb hall members behind the stone door," said Human. She had the highest cultivation level here, so she temporarily led everyone. No one objected, so everyone began to attack the hard boulders together. Mountainside City, outside 100-herb hall. General Zhang brought a group of soldiers and attracted most of the demon beasts. Among them, a silver eagleman that was more than 20 feet long was fighting with General Zhang. Demonic aura was like a mountain as spiritual energy surged. The two forces constantly collided, creating a deep pit in the ground every time. These two had the highest cultivation levels and were fighting alone. Beside them were the other demon beasts and human soldiers. Among them, there were two demon beasts that were the most special. One was a giant wolf with fiery red fur that was more than 30 feet long. Demonic aura surged from its body as it constantly spat out huge fireballs. Fighting against it was a soldier wielding a long spear. The spear in his hand was like a dragon, filling the sky with spear shadows. It was incomparably fierce. On the other side, a burly man wielding a mountain-splitting axe was fiercely clashing with a ground shell beast. Every strike could split mountains and rocks, sending sparks flying. Suddenly, a violent sound came from the center of Mountainside City, and the entire pavilion shook. Not good. There's a change in 100 Herb Hall. The Silver Eagleman spoke in human language. Damn humans, they're too cunning. Quickly go to 100 Herb Hall. We can't let the humans succeed. The voice was like rolling thunder, spreading far and wide. Immediately, many demon beasts rushed toward 100 Herb Hall, constantly roaring. Chapter 98. Lin Xian and company naturally didn't know about the battle outside. They were attacking the hard boulder with all their might. Bam! Rumble. Under their 8th joint attack, the hard boulder was finally blasted apart. The entire hall trembled constantly as the boulder, which was hundreds of feet tall, was shattered. A hole that was about the height of a person appeared. As the dust dissipated, a thick, blue stone door appeared in front of everyone. Think of a way to contact the people inside, Human said to everyone as she tried to pull the door handle. Immediately, some people began searching. Some shouted loudly, while others struck the stone door with all their might. Lin Xian stood by the side, his eyes flickering. Inside the stone door, 3 figures sensed the changes in the stone door and nervously leaned against each other. Are the demons finally attacking? The person in front was a middle-aged man. He had a pale face and no beard, looking like a scholar. What should we do? Are we just going to wait for death? The people on both sides asked. We can't let anything from 100 Herb Hall fall into the hands of the demons. The middle-aged man subconsciously touched the black ring on his finger. Just as the 3 of them were about to fight to the death, a voice suddenly entered their ears. I'm a disciple of the Mystic Heaven sect, one of the rescue team. We are outside the stone door. I hope you can open it quickly. The trio's expressions changed drastically. Impossible. Not only can this door block attacks, but it can also block sound and aura. How can he send his voice in? The middle-aged man's eyes flickered as he said in a deep voice, this should be a soul transmission, but it's an extremely brilliant method. And the person in front of us is actually a youth. Sacred Handson, should we believe him? The other 2 asked. Outside the stone door, Lin Xian's forehead was covered in sweat. Lord Alcohol had taught him this soul transmission, but it was a little strenuous for him to use it for the first time. Before he could heave a sigh of relief, another unforeseen event happened. The ground in the hall trembled slightly as though an earthquake was about to happen. What's going on? Everyone's expression changed drastically. Inside, Lord Alcohol said in a deep voice, the beast horde is here. You better be prepared to break out. When Lin Xian heard that, he quickly informed everyone. This is a beast horde. Everyone, prepare to break out. At the same time, he informed the 3 of the situation outside via soul transmission. The middle-aged man pulled the door handle. Rather than waiting for death here, why don't we believe him? Ka. Just as everyone was preparing to escape, the green stone door moved. The stone door slowly rose, emitting a muffled sound. The 2 sides finally met. Great, it's really a rescue team. The 2 young men behind the middle-aged man cheered. I'm Sun Wenyin. Thank you for saving me, young heroes. The middle-aged man cupped his fists and bowed. There's no time, let's go. The demonic beasts will be here soon. Lin Xian said in a deep voice. 8th level meridian condensation martial artists, take out your shields and protect the 3 of them. Human Shiji and the other rank 9 meridians Ningmai martial artists will take the lead to break through. Lin Xian's strategy was very simple. It was the same as how they had passed through the ground shell beast horde. The weaker ones were in charge of defense, while the stronger ones were in charge of opening a path. Although Lin Xian was the first to distribute, Feng Bufan and the others did not have any objections. Human also nodded in agreement. However, Fan Chong coldly snorted, clearly dissatisfied. But everyone was moving quickly, so he couldn't get angry. Zhang Hao and the other 3 used their shields to protect Sun Wenyin and the other 2. The remaining 5 stood in 4 directions, preparing to attack. 2 disciples stood at the front of the group. The 9 disciples quickly finished distributing their tasks and prepared to attack. Lin Xian looked at the formation and frowned. Human Shiji. It's best if you two peak meridian condensation 9th level martial artists don't attack together. Fan Chong stood beside Human. After hearing these words, he was enraged. Boy, don't talk nonsense. Do you want to die? Lin Shidi, what do you mean? Human didn't understand. The two people with high battle power can't attack together. Otherwise, we won't be able to break through. It's best to balance them. I understand. Human said. Fan Chong, switch with Feng Bufan first. Fan Chong sneered. What does a mere meridian condensation 8th level brat know? I believe in Lin Shidi, Feng Bufan said in a low voice. Fan Chong's face was gloomy as he switched places with Feng Bufan. He stood on the left side of the group. On the right side was a youth called Huang Wei. Lin Xian stood at the back. The entire group is ready to switch at any time. Get ready. We're leaving now, Lin Xian said in a low voice. Everyone, believe in Lin Shidi, Feng Bufan said again. Who? Everyone set off, like a sharp sword flying out. Outside the pavilion, besides the normal monsters, there were 4 black-robed people. They stood on the monsters, looking very mysterious. Hee hee, when they come out, we'll catch them all. One of the black-robed people laughed. His voice sounded very young. Whoosh whoosh. A dazzling light rushed out and quickly fell into the monster horde, constantly colliding with them. The target has appeared. Attack. A black-robed person patted the scarlet flame wolf under him. Immediately, the wolf howled into the sky. Who? Hundreds of monsters moved like a flood, incomparably ferocious. In order to preserve their lives, Lin Xian and the rest also used all their strength to fight. Hee hee, interesting. Let me test them. A black-robed person laughed sinisterly. You sure, San? End this quickly. Another black-robed person said. Don't worry, it's just a few disciples from a small sect. The black-robed person called Shursan flew out like a large bird. Boom. A black palm shadow attacked Lin Xian and the rest. Everyone, retreat to the right. Lin Xian sensed the black-robed person's existence through his soul power and shouted loudly. Retreat to the right? You don't want to live anymore. Fan Chong was furious. He completely ignored Lin Xian. However, in the next moment, a fierce palm wind swept over. Pong. Fan Chong was caught off guard and hurriedly defended. He was hit until his blood boiled and his whole body was in pain. What? The others were shocked. They looked at Lin Xian gratefully. If it wasn't for Lin Xian, they would have been attacked. Fan Chong was furious. He had suffered a great loss because he didn't listen to Lin Xian's advice. This almost made him explode. There's someone. Why is there someone? Feng Bufan roared. Who's working with the demons? I don't know, but our situation is very dangerous because there's more than one black-robed person. Lin Xian looked into the distance. The black-robed people sitting on the monsters were shocked. Someone actually discovered us. Interesting. I'm going to take action too. Let's see how strong the warriors of Xiao are. The black-robed person flew out. You sure San is also going? The remaining 2 black-robed people sat upright and watched. Pung pung pung. Ever since Fan Chong was attacked by the black-robed person, he had been pestered. The black-robed person constantly attacked Fan Chong, causing him to fly into a rage. Black palm shadows attacked Fan Chong fiercely. Every attack was extremely strange, and even carried a sinister force. Fan Chong had to maintain the team and fight the black-robed man at the same time. He couldn't use his full strength at all, which made him feel very aggrieved, especially when Lin Xian, who was beside him, had a hint of contempt in his eyes. He hatefully slashed out with his blade and followed the team closely, afraid that he would fall behind. At this moment, the strange voice sounded again. Ha, you sure San? I'm coming. Not good. Another black-robed person is coming. Fan Chong's face changed. Chapter 99. Not only was Fan Chong afraid, but everyone else was as well. One black-robed man had already slowed them down. If another one came, they would probably fall into the horde of demonic beasts. I'll go hold him back. Feng Bufan roared as he charged forward with his blade. Thunderclap slash. A resplendent blade light shone, reaching 3 feet long as it whizzed towards the black-robed man in the air. Haha, good one. Yushi laughed as he met Feng Bufan head-on. The two of them began to fight. On the side, Fanchong was also dragged into the battle with another black-robed man. Frost Palm. A palm strike brought with it endless cold air, as if winter had arrived. Even the air was frozen, causing the surrounding demonic beasts to slow down. Ice Tribute. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. If he had known earlier, he would have let Fanchong make a move first. This would definitely slow down the horde of demonic beasts. Let's charge. Lin Xian came to the front of the group and waved his palms, opening a path for them. Behind them, the remaining black-robed men could not hold on any longer. Seeing that Lin Xian and the rest were about to escape, they also made a move. Very quickly, the two of them caught up to Lin Xian and the rest. Human blocked one of the black-robed men, while Lin Xian took care of the last one. Wang Wei, you continue to rush over. Lin Xian passed the group to the last youth. Kill them quickly. Don't let them escape. The black-robed man fighting with humans said. Don't worry, it's just a Meridian Stage 8 trash. The black-robed man sized up Lin Xian and smiled evilly. Kid, I'm called Yushirsi. It's your honor to die in my hands. With that, a ball of black mist appeared on his palm, constantly changing its shape. Die. Yushirsi struck out with both palms, his black robes fluttering. Wisps of black mist surged towards Lin Xian. Destroy. Lin Xian pulled out his greatsword and stabbed forward, the tip of his sword touching the black fog. Explode. In the next moment, a golden electric arc appeared, forming an electric snake in the air and rushing into the black fog. Pung pung pung. Under Lin Xian's control, the golden lightning snakes continued to explode, blasting away the black fog. Yushirsi was caught off guard and suffered a great loss. Firstly, he saw that Lin Xian's cultivation was low, so he looked down on him and did not use his full strength. Secondly, Lin Xian's golden electric arcs seemed to have a certain restraining effect on the black mist. Brat, you actually dared to destroy my specter mist. I'll tear you to shreds. Yushirsi was enraged, letting out a sharp cry. The black fog that had been blasted away tumbled in the air and then gathered towards him, turning into 2 ferocious ghost heads that attached themselves to his arms. Ghost Wolf Fist. Black fist shadows flashed as Yushirsi charged forward, attacking Lin Xian in a flurry. Every punch produced a dull sound, and the 2 ferocious ghost heads constantly stretched out, biting and tearing. Phantom Thunder Steps. Lin Xian left behind a golden afterimage, his body constantly moving, the long sword in his hand stabbing out at high speed. Chi-Chi. Golden electric arcs attached themselves to the sword, dispersing the ghost fog every time. Damn it! This brat has the rare lightning attribute. It just so happens to counter me. Yushirsi shouted anxiously. Lightning God's Fury. Lightning Slash. Lin Xian suddenly closed in, releasing large amounts of lightning around the black-robed man, continuously eroding his defenses. Then, with a flash of his sword, he slashed towards the man's arm. Golden lightning flashed through the air, bringing with it a heart-palpitating energy. Yushirsi screamed as one of his arms flew off. Yushirsi. The black-robed man fighting human was enraged. He wanted to rush over to help, but he was tightly held back by the human. Brat, I want you dead. Yushirsi's face was twisted as he sucked in all the black fog. He let out a pained cry as his entire body swelled. Finally, his body grew taller, turning into a 2 zhang tall demonic creature. His severed arm was also replaced by the black fog. After transforming, Yushirsi's strength increased explosively. Every punch seemed to be able to tear apart the void. Pung. A black palm slammed down. The wind from the palm was intense. Lin Xian used Phantom Thunder Steps, his body disappearing from the spot. Wind Thunder Slash. In the next moment, he appeared behind Yushirsi, his sword light soaring into the sky. This was the first time Lin Xian had combined the power of wind and thunder. Green and gold mixed together, quickly slashing out, creating a storm in the air. Pooh. One slash, and Yushirsi was dead. Impossible. The black-robed man fighting humans screamed. Although Yushursi was the weakest among them, he wasn't someone a rank 8 Meridian Stage 8 martial artist could kill. Lin Xian, quickly go help Feng Bufan. Human waved the jade fan in her hand, creating a hurricane. Lin Xian nodded. He could see that Human wasn't in any danger for the time being, so he turned and ran towards the back. Although Feng Bufan was also a rank 9 Meridian Stage 9 martial artist, he was still weaker than Human and the rest. He was being pushed back by the black-robed man, Yushursi. Third gale stab. Like a sharp awl piercing through the air, Lin Xian's sword pierced towards Yushursi's back. Ghost mist armor. Yushursi was on high alert. The black fog on his body quickly formed a ghostly face armor, floating in front of him. Ding ding ding. The longsword collided with the armor and was repelled by the force. Feng Bufan took this opportunity to escape. Humph, it's useless. You can't break through my defense. Yushursi laughed. Is that so? Lin Xian's lips curled up slightly. Golden lightning surged out of his body, creating a fist-sized hole in the ghostly face armor. What? Lightning attribute. Yushursi was shocked. His ghostly aura was most afraid of lightning. It was their nemesis. Retreat. Yushursi turned into black fog, wanting to escape. The green-gold sword chi pierced through the black fog, stirring it up. Soon, Yushursi let out a blood-curdling scream. Brat, you may be able to injure me, but you can't kill me, and I only need one strike to dig out your heart. The black fog shrouded Xiao Qin's hand quickly stretched out. His 5 fingers had pitch-black nails that were about half a foot long, giving off a dark green light. Lin Xian activated the sword intent in his body. His entire person became incomparably sharp, filled with killing intent. Pooh! The black fog was sliced in half. Fresh blood flowed out, dyeing the ground red. The entire process was very fast. From Lin Xian saving Feng Bufan to killing Yushursi, only a few breaths of time had passed. Feng Bufan stood there in a daze, the corner of his mouth twitching. He could only passively defend against the black-robed man, but Lin Xian had finished him off like he was cutting vegetables. Is he really just a Meridian 8th-stage martial artist? Feng Bufan's heart trembled. He felt that Lin Xian wasn't much weaker than a true Sea of Soul Realm martial artist. On the other side, Fan Qiong was also gritting his teeth and fighting with the black-robed man. Although he wasn't as wretched as Feng Bufan, he could only protect himself. Seeing Lin Xian kill the black-robed man so easily, his eyelids twitched and his spirit power almost stopped flowing. How could this be? He'd always looked down on Lin Xian because he was stronger than Lin Xian. But in reality, Lin Xian could easily kill an enemy he couldn't defeat. It must be because of his cultivation method. Fan Qiong could only find excuses to comfort himself. His lightning attribute could restrain these black-robed men, so he could kill them so easily. Once he dealt with the black-robed man, he would definitely find a chance to teach him a lesson. Fan Qiong was unhappy. On the other side, after Lin Xian killed Yushursi, he turned around and ran, not paying any attention to Fan Qiong. Feng Bufan was slightly stunned, and Fan Qiong felt his chest tighten. He was filled with regret. Chapter 100. Lin Xian used his movement technique to rush forward. Firstly, he hated Fan Qiong, so he wouldn't attack. Secondly, he felt that the black-robed man's aura had suddenly become much stronger. He was worried about human safety, so he hurried over. As expected, when he arrived, he found that Human couldn't hold on any longer. The black-robed man's body was covered in dense black fog, for pitch-black chains extended from his sleeves like agile snakes, intertwining in the air to attack. Senior Sister Human. Lin Xian used Phantom Thunderstep, his speed reaching an extreme. His body turned into a streak of light as he instantly appeared between the two. Sword Chi danced as Lin Xian slashed at the pitch-black chains. Walala! Something strange happened. The sword didn't cut through the chains, but was instead entangled by the 4 chains. Strands of black fog appeared and swam around the sword, corroding it. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. His sword trembled slightly, and the rust on the dark red sword fell off. Fiery red runes flickered, overflowing with light. In the next moment, The golden lightning in his body also surged out, crackling as it rushed towards the black-robed man. Chi. When the two forces collided, it was like ice meeting fire, constantly fusing with each other. Junior brother Lin, be careful. This black-robed man has swallowed the dead Ushursi, and his strength is constantly rising. He's now very close to the spirit sea realm. Human's jade fan whistled, fanning out a gust of wind. Kiki, this is all thanks to you guys. The black-robed man, Gamma Aquarii, laughed sinisterly. Don't worry, I'll give you a quick death. Ghost fiend. Gamma Aquarii's body floated back, her hands forming a strange seal. Black fog churned around her body, and a 50 to 60 feet tall ghost head appeared. The ghost head was the size of a house, constantly changing shape in the air, emitting a terrifying aura. Wind spirit slash. Human clenched her teeth, and the jade fan in her hand grew larger. A dark green hurricane flew out, scraping a few deep marks in the ground. Pong. Clang. The green hurricane hit the ghost face and kept disappearing. The ghost face only rippled like water, but it didn't break. Devour. Gamma Aquarii sneered, and her hand seals suddenly changed. The ghostly head suddenly bent down and opened its mouth, swallowing Lin Xian and Human. Their surroundings instantly became dark, and the two of them were only able to see each other through the light of their spiritual energy. Countless mucus-like things flew towards them, each of them carrying a strong corrosive aura. When they landed on their protective spirit light, sizzling sounds could be heard. What should we do? My defense is quickly disappearing. Human panicked. Senior sister Human, follow me. Lin Xian shot out a sword light from his eyes, as if it could cut through everything. His aura became fierce and wild, as if it could tear everything apart. This is... Human's beautiful eyes revealed a shocked expression. Could it be sword intent? Heavenly meteor. A dazzling light lit up, illuminating the endless darkness, and a soaring sword chi flashed past. In the outside world, Gamma Aquarii laughed arrogantly. After devouring these two, I should be able to completely enter the spirit sea realm. At that time, I will definitely be put in an important position. An excited smile appeared on his pale face, and his expression was very proud. However, in the next moment, a sudden change occurred. The house-sized ghost head suddenly cracked open, revealing a very small hole, like the tip of a needle. However, the hole grew crazily and finally tore into a huge crack. Impossible! Gamma Aquarii screamed. Whoosh! Sword chi surged, and the sword intent was astonishing. A sword light that looked like a golden thread quickly pierced through his body. Sword intent. Gamma Aquarii's pupils gradually widened, and his body collapsed. Human covered her small mouth, her eyes full of shock. Her body trembled slightly, and she couldn't accept it for a while. Lin Xian, on the other hand, placed his sword on his back and slowly exhaled. His face was somewhat pale, and more than half of the spiritual energy in his body had been consumed. He couldn't bear to use Heavenly Meteor twice in such a short period of time, and the second time was when he used it with sword intent. However, he still gained something. In that instant, he felt that the sword intent in his body had become stronger, and its might had increased significantly. Half-step sword intent. Lord Alcohol transmitted. I believe you will soon be able to grasp true sword intent. True sword intent. Lin Xian's heart burned. He had only grasped a sliver of sword intent, and his strength was comparable to a 9th-stage meridian condensation cultivator. Once he grasped true sword intent, he might even be able to put up a fight against a soul realm warrior. Putting away his thoughts, Lin Xian looked at the dead black-robed man. He circulated his soul force and searched the black-robed man's body and found a token. He bent his fingers and exerted some force, creating a suction force in his palm that sucked the token into his hand. The token was made of a very strange material. It was neither gold nor stone, but it was extremely hard. The palm-sized token had the word Nether written on it. Behind it was a black dragon bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws. It was lifelike, as though it was alive. Senior brother Feng hasn't returned yet. Let's go take a look. Lin Xian put away the token and the two moved, leaving afterimages behind as they ran. Fan Chong was extremely depressed. He had wanted to stay behind to help Fan Chong, but the black-robed man had devoured his companion, and his strength had increased greatly. This had put him and Fan Chong in danger. Thankfully, the two of them were at the 9th stage meridian condensation realm, so they were able to resist for a period of time. However, as time passed, the black-robed man's strength grew. Now, both he and Fan Chong were injured. Damn that Lin Xian. Why isn't he back yet? Fan Chong gritted his teeth. In the distance, two figures ran over. Lin Xian and Human appeared. When Fan Chong saw Lin Xian, joy and excitement rose in his heart. Even he didn't notice this change. Come and help me, Fan Chong yelled. Lin Xian stepped forward, pulling out the large sword on his back and slashing out. The blue sword energy carried a thread of sword essence. Its power was astonishing. It formed a rapid sound as it slashed down. Pooh! At the hands of the black-robed man, he was killed by the combined efforts of several people. Lin Xian used his soul power to search, but didn't find anything. He looked into the distance and said in a low voice, "The black-robed man is dead. Let's hurry and meet up with Huang Wei." The three didn't have any objections to his words, and didn't dare to. After this battle, everyone's understanding of Lin Xian had changed completely. The three vaguely thought of him as their leader. Even Fan Chong didn't dare to object. The four of them turned into streaks of light and disappeared. Not long after, they met up with Huang Wei, and the group quickly rushed towards Northgard City. When Northgard City appeared in front of everyone's eyes, Lin Xian took out a signal flare and released it into the sky. A dark red cloud exploded in the sky. It could be seen from 100 miles away. When General Zhang and the others who were fighting in Mountain Overlook City saw this signal, they all raised their heads and laughed. They didn't want to continue fighting. After attacking with all their might, their bodies turned into streaks of light and fled. The Silver Eagle Man and the other demon beast leaders were incomparably furious. At this time, they also received the news, and their expressions became even more panicked. What? The underworld death guards are all dead. Chapter 101. Lin Xian naturally didn't know how much of a shock the four black-robed men's deaths had caused to the Yao clan. He had already returned to Northgard City. Squads of soldiers clad in black armor surrounded them, their expressions filled with gratitude. Lin Xian and the rest only just realized that the middle-aged man they had saved was actually a famous medical sage in Yunzhou. They had also heard of this medical sage. Although his cultivation was only at the meridian condensation realm, his medical skills were incomparably wondrous, especially when it came to detoxification. Many warriors had sought him out for treatment, and he didn't refuse any of them. Over time, his medical reputation spread throughout Yunzhou. Sun Wenyan first expressed to the soldiers that he would do his best to save the great general, then thanked Lin Xian and the rest. He said that when things had stabilized, he would give them some herbs as a reward. Not long after, General Zhang returned with his men. Before they even entered the city, loud laughter could be heard. You are indeed young heroes. Not only did you save Sage Sun, but you also heavily injured the Yao clan. General Zhang said to Lin Xian and the rest, "Let me thank you on behalf of my brothers in the army." "General, you're too serious. As citizens of the Xia Kingdom, we should do these things." Lin Xian and the rest hurriedly stopped him. They couldn't accept a bow from a spiritual ocean realm general. "You young heroes want to rest for a few days. I'll take Sage Sun to visit the great general first," General Zhang said excitedly. Then, General Zhang quickly left with Sun Wenyan and the rest. 3 days later, General Zhang summoned Lin Xian and the rest. General Zhang didn't wear armor. Instead, he wore a wide green robe that covered his majestic figure. He sat there boldly, and beside him was the elegant Sun Shengshou. "How are the great general's injuries?" Lin Xian and the rest asked with concern. "Thanks to Sage Sun's treatment, there are no major problems now. He only needs to rest for a few days to recover." General Zhang laughed. "This time, it's all thanks to you. If it weren't for you, the great general's injuries wouldn't have healed so quickly." Young hero Lin's performance was even more amazing, so the biggest reward this time will be given to young hero Lin. Does anyone have any objections? Everyone shook their heads. Lin Xian's performance was indeed outstanding. Feng Bufan and the others were especially grateful to Lin Xian. Human, as the warrior with the highest cultivation, didn't have any objections, so the others wouldn't say anything either. Even Fan Chong only frowned slightly, not daring to raise any objections. All right, I will reward young hero Lin first. General Zhang said, this time, the military will award you 100 military merits and a special military merit token. With that said, General Zhang waved his hand and handed a silver token to Lin Xian. Your battle achievements are recorded on it. If you go to any martial hall in Xia country, you only need to take out this token. Lin Xian thanked him and put away the token. To the side, Sun Xingqiu said with a chuckle, young hero Lin, to thank you for saving my life. You can choose 2 spiritual herbs from me. Lin Xian pondered for a moment and asked Lord Alcohol in his mind. Then, he said the names of the 2 spiritual herbs, Crimson Spirit Flower and Jade Moon Root. Sun Xingqiu looked at Lin Xian in surprise. Then, he flicked his ring and the 2 herbs flew towards Lin Xian. After Lin Xian received the herbs, he stood to the side with a smile. Next, it was time for the others to receive their rewards. Human had 80 battle merits, Feng Bufan and Fan Chong had 60 each, and the rest had more or less received battle merits. It didn't take long for everyone to collect their rewards. Lin Xian followed them out. Junior brother Lin, there's a martial hall in Northgard City. Do you want to take a look? Feng Bufan asked.
Sure.
Lin Xian followed Feng Bufan and Human to the martial hall. The martial hall was similar to a sect's martial skills pavilion, but it was stricter. Not only was there a protective array, but there were also many experts overseeing it. After Lin Xian and company arrived, they felt at least 3 pairs of eyes scrutinizing them. After Lin Xian and company took out their tokens, the obscure gazes gradually disappeared. After entering the martial hall, the 3 of them heaved a sigh of relief. Those gazes had been like divine weapons that could cut them to pieces. Lin Xian was also secretly alarmed. That power was even sharper than his sword intent. This didn't mean that his sword intent wasn't strong. Lin Xian had only comprehended a little. Furthermore, the owners of those gazes were experts among experts. That was why Lin Xian had such a feeling. The martial hall didn't only have martial arts manuals, but also various resources related to martial arts. The 3 of them temporarily split up to look for what they needed. Lin Xian roughly looked around and found that the martial hall was divided into several areas. He was in the martial school district. As Lin Xian looked around, he became more and more amazed. In the martial hall, the lowest martial arts were profound-level martial arts, and there were many spirit-level martial arts. The world's martial arts were divided into 5 categories: yellow, profound, spirit, earth, and heaven. As for what was above the heaven level, almost no one knew the answer. Among them, earth and heaven-level martial arts were almost non-existent. Therefore, spirit-level martial arts were considered relatively high-level martial arts. Spirit-level martial arts were also divided into low, middle, and high levels. Different levels had different battle merits. Moreover, martial arts of the same level also had different battle merits. For example, a spirit-level sword art was much higher than a spirit-level body-refining martial art. After Lin Xian looked around, he found that low-level spirit-level martial arts usually gave between 150 to 300 battle merits. As for mid-level spirit-level martial arts, they were worth more than 300 battle merits. High-level spirit-level martial arts were worth more than 1,000 battle merits. Lin Xian suddenly shook his head. Then, he set his sights on the low-level spirit-level martial arts. It wasn't easy to enter the martial hall. He had risked his life in exchange for these war merit points. Moreover, it was very difficult to encounter such a mission again. Most importantly, his silver token gave him a discount once a year. He could also enjoy a 20% discount on spirit-level martial arts. With his 100 battle merits and the 30 battle merits he obtained from nurturing, it was just enough to exchange for a low-level spirit-level martial art. What should I choose? Lin Xian hesitated. He estimated that even the core disciples of the Black Heaven sect might not be able to learn spirit-level martial arts. Why don't we choose something related to the soul? Lord Alcohol suggested. This martial hall is part of China's collection, so it must be very rich. There might be some spirit-level martial arts here. Lin Xian nodded and began searching for spirit-level martial arts. It had to be said that spirit-level martial arts were very rare. Most of the martial arts here were related to fists, legs, and blades. After searching for a long time, he only found 2 spirit-level martial arts. One was the Illusion 7 Seals, and the other was the Purple Spirit Eyes. Both martial arts only had brief introductions without any actual content. Lin Xian took the introductions of the 2 martial arts and read them carefully. The Illusion 7 Seals used one's soul to create illusions. It could make the enemy lose themselves and seal the enemy's senses. It required the warrior to have a powerful soul and was accompanied by a certain array formation. The Purple Spirit Eyes was a low-level spirit-level martial art. It used one's powerful soul and a special mystic technique to cast eye techniques. It could be used to observe, hypnotize, and attack. When practiced to the large success stage, there was a certain chance of controlling the enemy and enslaving them. Chapter 102. The introduction was simple, but the direction was clear. Lin Xian thought for a while and decided to choose Purple Spirit Eyes. This martial art was more comprehensive, and it should be very effective when combined with his sword attacks. Purple Spirit Eyes required 150 battle merits. Lin Xian spent all the battle merits he got from the mission. Fortunately, he had 30 battle merits from repairing weapons, which was just enough. After obtaining the cultivation method of Purple Spirit Eyes, Lin Xian, Feng Bufan, and Human returned to their residence and entered their own courtyards. Back in his room, Lin Xian first practiced the longevity secret art once, then comprehended the sword intent. Finally, he took out the new Purple Spirit Eyes cultivation method. Purple Spirit Eyes was divided into 3 stages. The first stage was orange, which could see through illusions and flaws. It could also reduce the enemy's speed, confuse them, and other negative effects. The second stage was red, which could be used to perform soul assassination and other attacks. The third stage was purple, which could be used to hypnotize the enemy and control them. According to the above description and Lord Alcohol's guidance, Lin Xian began the cultivation of Purple Spirit Eyes. Northgard City was considered a medium-sized city. Other than being heavily guarded and having many warriors, it was similar to an ordinary city. In fact, it was even more developed than an ordinary city. The market here had a complete range of materials and reasonable prices. Many warriors from Yunzhou came here because of its reputation and fought to buy it. Moreover, not only was the market developed, but the industries of refining weapons, refining elixirs, and restaurants were also very developed. Because the customers were all warriors, they were more professional. The Four Seas restaurant was the most famous restaurant in Northgard City. The ingredients inside were all spiritual herbs and demonic beasts. There were no ordinary goods. Many warriors liked to eat here. Most of them came from all over the world and often brought news of the underworld. The Four Seas restaurant had 5 floors. The interior was decorated magnificently and extravagantly. The hall on the first floor had the most seats. Although it was lively, it was too noisy. Usually, warriors with some money would go to the second floor. There were also many people on the second floor, but it was relatively quiet. There was a row of private rooms on the east side for warriors who liked peace and quiet. The rooms on the third floor and above were all private rooms for important people. On the second floor by the window, Feng Bufan and Human were leisurely sitting there, listening to the discussions of the surrounding cultivators as they looked at the scenery outside the window. "Why isn't junior brother Lin here yet?" Human asked. "I heard that he's cultivating. He'll come over later." Feng Bufan said, "Junior brother Lin sure is hardworking. No wonder you are so strong at such a young age." The two of them estimated the time and ordered their food. Not long after, a handsome young man dressed in black walked up to the second floor. "Junior brother Lin, over here," Human shouted. Lin Xian smiled and walked over. He pulled out a chair and slowly sat down. He said comfortably, "It's really lively here." "That's right. The Four Seas restaurant's 2 main specialties are its food and information." Human smiled and said, "The news here is not only from the Cloud State, but also from the other 6 states. Lin Xian nodded and kept looking around. After experiencing such an exciting life and death battle, the bustling city made him feel as if he was dreaming. A beautiful maid presented a delicious meal. Looking at the delicious food, Lin Xian's appetite was greatly aroused. This is the paw of an earth demon bear. It's very delicious and can strengthen the muscles and bones. Feng Bufan said, Junior brother Lin, try it. Earth demon bear, a second-rank monster beast. Lin Xian was surprised. The Four Seas restaurant was really generous. Even the ordinary dishes were made of monster beast meat. Lin Xian and the other two ate happily and chatted from time to time. However, most of the time, they were listening to the conversations of others. At the table closest to them, there were 4 burly men. Their eyes were shining, and there was a murderous aura around them. It was obvious that they were people who walked on the edge of a knife all year round. These people were around 30 years old, and they were talking about the recent happenings in the underworld. Lin Xian and the others were amazed. Among them, a few burly men were also talking about the Sword Lake Mansion. One of the burly men said, the Sword Lake Mansion is indeed worthy of being one of the 4 big clans of Xia country. I heard that Lin Feng recently defeated Tian Tsang's sword and obtained the 5th rank of the Hidden Dragon ranking. Yeah, that Tian Tsang's sword, Yi Gufan, is a 5th C of Soul Realm warrior. I didn't expect him to lose. Lin Feng is really strong. He is only 18 years old and he is already so strong. I think it is only a matter of time before he enters the harmonious spirit realm. I think the title of the young master of the Sword Lake Mansion will fall on his head sooner or later. Lin Xian listened to them silently without any expression on his face. The Lin Feng they were talking about was Lin Xian's clansman. Moreover, it was Lin Feng's father who had planned to drive him out of the Sword Lake Mansion. He and Lin Feng would have a battle in the future. Lin Xian had also heard about the Hidden Dragon ranking. It was a ranking in Xia country, specifically for young warriors under 30 years old. Those who were on the ranking were all young geniuses, monstrous figures. It could be said that those who were able to enter the Hidden Dragon ranking had a high chance of entering the harmonious spirit realm in the future. The so-called harmonious spirit realm was the realm above the Sea of Soul realm. Above the Sea of Soul realm were the 3 spirit realms. The harmonious spirit realm was one of them. After that were the spirit transformation realm and the spirit detecting realm. As for the realm above the spirit transformation realm, it was almost impossible to find it in the whole of Xia country. It was also impossible to find it in the nearby countries. Perhaps it could only exist in stronger countries and sections. Hidden Dragon ranking. Lin Xian whispered, I wonder how many people from the 3 sects will be able to enter the Hidden Dragon ranking? Junior brother Lin doesn't know? Human asked doubtfully. Seeing Lin Xian shake his head, she continued, a total of 14 people from our 3 sects will be able to enter the ranking. Among them, 4 from the Black Sky sect, 4 from the Purple Cloud sect, and 6 from the Lotus Glory sect. However, there are only 3 people from the 3 sects who will be able to enter the top 100. 3 people? Lin Xian was slightly taken aback. The 3 sects were considered powerful forces in the Cloud Prefecture. There were also some aristocratic families and independent cultivators. According to his estimation, there were only about 10 people in the entire Cloud Prefecture who could enter the top 100 of the Hidden Dragon ranking. It seems like the Cloud Prefecture is considered relatively weak in Xia country. Lin Xian thought to himself. Fortunately, he had Lord Alcohol. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for him to defeat Lin Feng in a year and a half. A few burly men at the side continued, let's not talk about anything else. There are also a few pretty good youths in the Cloud Prefecture. I believe that in a few years, entering the top 100 of the Hidden Dragon ranking won't be a problem. I'm more optimistic about the Black Sky sect's Wang Jianxing. It's said that his sword force has already reached a very profound level. He doesn't even need to make a move. He can defeat his opponent just by relying on his sword force. Yuan Fei from the Lotus sect isn't bad either. Furthermore, he's on the path of body refinement. Once he cultivates it, he'll be extremely powerful. Even Wang Jianxing is ranked behind him. It's said that the Purple Cloud Fairy from the Purple Cloud sect has already cultivated the Purple Cloud technique to an extremely high level. Even some of the older generation figures have been defeated by her. The few of them discussed fervently as they listed the geniuses of the Cloud Prefecture. I'm sure you guys don't know. Recently, there's news from the Black Sky sect that a disciple has comprehended sword intent. If it's true, I'm afraid there will be another peerless genius. A burly man at another table said loudly, Sword intent? That's a realm that all swordsmen dream of. Is there really someone who can comprehend it slowly? This news alarmed the entire second floor. Many people turned their heads to look at it in bewilderment. Feng Bufan and Human Being looked at Lin Xian with strange expressions. Lin Xian gave a wry smile as he unconsciously rubbed his chin. At that moment, a voice came from the private room on the east side. A bunch of mountain villagers. Is sword intent something that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can comprehend? The voice was filled with disdain and a hint of arrogance. Chapter 103. The voice was arrogant and disdainful. The atmosphere on the second floor froze, and the lively atmosphere suddenly cooled down. Who's causing trouble? How do you know we're talking nonsense? The group of burly men were straightforward and hot-tempered, so they immediately shouted. Even the Tiansong sword might not be able to comprehend sword will. How can a disciple of a small sect comprehend it? The voice was even more disdainful. If anyone were to comprehend it, it would be my big brother. How can anyone else? Another voice sounded. Nonsense. Who the hell is your big brother? Come out and let us see. The burly man roared. How dare you insult my big brother? You're courting death. The voice was angry, and then a long black shadow flew out. Whoosh! Something like a hidden weapon flew out and streaked across the air, creating a sharp sound. The force was so fierce that it made people look sideways. Cut! The burly man suddenly stood up, pulled out the long saber on the table, and slashed out. The saber light was bright, and the saber chi soared into the sky. Clang! The long saber broke when it came in contact with the hidden weapon. The hidden weapon was about to stab the burly man, and blood splattered on the spot. Lin Xian furrowed his brows slightly. No matter what, these burly men were talking about him. Killing someone over a mere rumor was something that he couldn't tolerate. Furthermore, the words of those people in the private room made him extremely displeased. Without any hesitation, he flicked his finger, and the wine cup in his hand flew out as fast as lightning. The moment the hidden weapon was about to hit, it bounced off. Ding! The air trembled. The hidden weapon was nailed into the wall, and its tail kept trembling. The surroundings turned into a layer of frost. Everyone looked over and found that the so-called hidden weapon was a chopstick, and the one that bounced it off was only a wine cup. They immediately sucked in a few breaths of cold air. The techniques of these two people were very powerful, far surpassing that of most people here. The burly man with the broken saber came back to his senses and said respectfully, "Thank you for your help. I, Wang Hu, will be grateful for it for the rest of my life." In the private room, the voice seemed to be very angry. He shouted in exasperation, "How dare you block my hidden weapon? You don't want to live anymore. I'm afraid you've gone too far by being so ruthless," Lin Xian said in a deep voice. He didn't expect that a single piece of news from him would cause such a commotion. It seemed that sword intent was more important than he had imagined. I'd like to see who dares to control me." The door of the private room on the east side suddenly opened, and a pale-faced youth walked out angrily. "I said that no one in the Cloud State can comprehend sword intent. Are you all not convinced?" The angry young man snorted coldly as his aura intensified. This aura. Everyone is shocked. Half a step into the spiritual sea realm. At such a young age, he's already half a step into the spiritual sea realm. Even in the three sects, he would be a top disciple. These people were shocked. Who on earth is he? Of course, not everyone was convinced. Immediately, a few Sea of Soul Realm martial artists said coldly, "Although your strength is not bad, you are underestimating the Cloud State too much." That's right. Why can't we have someone who has comprehended the sword will in Yunzhou? You're so short-sighted. It's just a state that ranks last in the Xia. When you go out, you'll know how outstanding the other states are. The young man said disdainfully, "You're too arrogant. I'll let you know the power of the Cloud State." Immediately, Someone channeled his spiritual power, wanting to teach this arrogant young man a lesson. Humph. The young man was not afraid at all. He slowly took out a token from his chest and waved it in his hand. Who dares to touch me? There was a snowflake carved on the token. Although it was an inanimate object, it carried a trace of coldness. Snow State, Snow-Seeking Sect. Someone exclaimed. It's good that you know. The young man put away the token and asked with a sneer, Who dares to touch me now? Everyone looked uncertain, but no one dared to make a move. Seeing Lin Xian frown, Human explained in a low voice, The Snow State and the Cloud State are neighbors, but it's far from the Cloud State. The Snow State not only surpasses the Cloud State in terms of territory and resources, but also in terms of martial arts cultivation. The three sects of the Cloud State are all one-star sects, but the Snow-Seeking Sect of the Snow State is a two-star sect. As one of the core disciples of the Lotus Glory Sect, Human knew more. She continued, one-star sects are backed by harmonious spirit experts, but two-star sects are backed by spirit-detecting realm experts. The two are not on the same level. Human said so much to persuade Lin Xian not to be impulsive. Unexpectedly, Lin Xian smiled after hearing that. There was no trace of fear in his eyes. It looked like he wanted to make a move. Now, I'm going to make a move. Let's see who dares to stop me. The young man was like a rooster of victory. He raised his head and walked to the table of the big man. His right hand stretched out at lightning speed. Don't you want the mysterious man to save you? The young man sneered. I'm going to make a move now. Let's see if he will save you. The big man gritted his teeth angrily. His eyes were bloodshot. For martial artists like them, they lived for their reputation. If they were bullied by this young man today, they would rather die. However, the huge gap between the two of them made him feel powerless. He could only glare at the young man with murderous eyes. You have a good gaze. I'll gouge your eyes out. The young man was ruthless. Whoosh, whoosh. Lin Xian shook the wine cup. The fragrant spirit wine flew out quickly. It condensed into several small swords in the air and flew towards the cold young man. Swoosh, swoosh. The wine was silent, but it was incomparably sharp. What? The young man was shocked. Firstly, he did not expect that someone would dare to make a move. Secondly, the water droplet transformation technique made him fearful. Extinguish! The young man shouted. A white mist appeared on his palm. It was like 1,000-year-old ice that chilled one's heart. Suddenly, the surrounding air almost froze. Layers of white frost appeared on the ground and the table. The big man's face was also covered with ice. The small swords formed by the wine froze in the air and completely turned into ice. Lin Xian exclaimed. It was his first time seeing such a powerful ice power. It was even stronger than Fan Chong's. Although he was shocked, his hands did not stop moving. The three small wine swords were infused with a trace of golden lightning and whistled out. With the support of the lightning power, the three small swords broke through the ice power and flew towards the cold young man. Pung pung pung. The cold young man had no choice but to retreat. He gave up on the big man and continuously waved his palm, knocking the three small swords out of the air. What a powerful technique, to actually be able to use the weakest water as an offensive weapon. Which powerful swordsman is this? Many people were extremely shocked. They had not seen Lin Xian's technique at all. It's you. The cold young man coldly stared at Lin Xian. Layers of formless wind and snow surged behind him. The entire space seemed to have turned into winter. You dare to interfere with the snow-seeking sect's matters? I think you don't want to live anymore. The cold young man's palms were suffused with blue cold air. He mercilessly slapped towards Lin Xian. Chapter 104. The cold air spread out, enveloping the entire small space. Before the person arrived, the wind from the palm had already blown over, freezing everything in front of him. The blue ice instantly climbed onto the table and chairs, forming a huge ice sculpture. Both Homan and Feng Bufan stepped back in fear. They were pushed tens of feet away, and their shoes were already covered in a layer of ice, sparkling and translucent. What a terrifying cold air. Humans still had lingering fear. Not good, junior brother Lin. Retreat. Feng Bufan shouted. Lin Xian did not move, still holding the wine cup, slowly taking a sip. Although the surroundings were covered in frost, there was not a trace of cold air on his body. If one looked carefully, they would find that there were electric arcs flashing around his body from time to time, forming a layer of lightning protection, blocking all the cold air outside. Die! The cold-looking youth's palm slammed down. When it was still 3 feet away from Lin Xian, the icy blue palm suddenly grabbed at the air. A cold light flashed from the center of his palm and enveloped Lin Xian. Ka. The cold air enveloped Lin Xian, instantly freezing him into an ice sculpture. Ha 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 ha. The cold youth laughed. What kind of master is this? You can't even take a palm from me. The surrounding crowd was silent, but Feng Bufan and humans' faces changed, a trace of fear in their eyes. I wonder what will happen if I break this ice sculpture? The cold youth smiled evilly, and his palms slowly fell. Feng Bufan and human looked at each other, gritted their teeth, and prepared to attack. However, at this moment, the ice sculpture flashed with a red light, followed by a cracking sound. A crack appeared on the ice sculpture, then suddenly became bigger, and the entire ice sculpture exploded. These ice pieces did not scatter, but formed an icy blue sword in the air, attacking the cold youth. This shocking turn of events left everyone dumbfounded. Even the cold-looking youth retreated with a panicked expression. In fact, at the moment when he was frozen, Lin Xian used the Severing Essence Protective Sword Qi to protect his body. His protective sword Qi had already reached the second layer and was faintly red in color. The power of frost was unable to penetrate it at all. Then, he released the power of lightning and forcefully broke open the ice. Using his soul power, he formed the ice into ice swords and launched a counterattack. Traceless snow steps. Seeing that he was about to be hit, the cold-looking youth suddenly used his movement technique and narrowly dodged the attack. However, Lin Xian didn't give him a chance to fight back. An azure gold sword light appeared on his fingertips, and it contained the power of minor accomplishment sword force as it slashed through the air. Ice shield. The cold-looking young man waved his hands, and a hexagonal ice shield appeared on his body to defend himself. Qi. The power of the sword ray was beyond his imagination. It directly penetrated the ice shield and slashed his body. Crack. The hexagonal ice shield was split in half from the middle, and the cold-looking youth was sent flying. There was a thin sword mark on his neck, and this was the result of Lin Xian holding back. Otherwise, his throat would have been pierced. After sending the cold-looking youth flying, Lin Xian didn't even move his body. He was still holding the wine cup in his hand. The whole second floor was silent. Everyone was completely shocked. Even the Sea of Souls realm warriors sucked in a breath of cold air, their hearts trembling. You dare to injure my snow-seeking sect's disciple? How dare you? A delicate voice was heard. Then, a group of people walked out of the private room on the east side. There were 4 people in total. In the middle was a young man wearing a white robe. There was a blue longsword at his waist, and his sleeves were embroidered with a fluttering snowflake. His whole body was like a piece of 10,000-year-old ice, making people's hearts tremble. On his left was a young girl wearing a blue dress. She had an exquisite figure and a beautiful face. Her almond-shaped eyes were fiercely staring at Lin Xian. The 2 on the right were ordinary-looking young men. Their faces were gloomy, and cold qi was emitting from their bodies. Big brother, he dared to injure me. You have to avenge me. The cold-looking youth crawled up from the ground and pointed at Lin Xian viciously. Nonsense. Back off. The young man in white robe shouted. Immediately, the cold-looking youth shuddered. The latter walked over unwillingly and stood behind the young man in white robe obediently. My little brother is reckless. If he offended you, please forgive him. The young man in white robe said indifferently. Everyone was slightly stunned. They didn't expect the snow-seeking sect's disciple to apologize. They could only agree with a few words and let this matter pass. The young man in white robe nodded slightly and looked at Lin Xian. As for you, you injured my little brother. I'm afraid you have to give me an explanation. Lin Xian put down his wine cup and slowly stood up. His expression was a little more dignified. He could feel the strength of this young man in white robe. It was far from what that malicious young man could compare with. What explanation? Take my sword. Regardless of life or death, this matter will be over. The young man in white robe's eyes flickered with blue light. Okay. Lin Xian was not afraid. A trace of orange appeared in his eyes. This was the purple spirit eyes. He had just reached the first level and was using it to fight. Lin Xian's reply made the few people behind the young man in white robe laugh. Their laughter was filled with disdain, as if Lin Xian had made a very stupid decision. The malicious young man sneered, "Do you really think your sword skills are invincible? Let me tell you, my big brother is a genius on the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. People call him the Frost Sword." What? He is a genius on the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. The surrounding martial artists' faces changed. They were just talking about the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. They didn't expect to see a genius on it so soon. There were no weaklings on the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. They were all abnormally powerful martial artists. Ordinary people couldn't compare with them. You are the Frost Sword in Shaoli. A martial artist suddenly realized and exclaimed in a low voice, "In Shaoli." Human's face turned ugly. She quickly said, "Junior brother Lin, he is in Shaoli, ranked 143rd on the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. His strength is on par with the chief disciples of the 3 sections. Don't be impulsive." Chief Disciple was the title for the number 1 core disciple. In the Black Sky sect, the chief disciple was Wan Jianxing, who was also a genius on the Hidden Dragon leaderboard. Chief disciple? Lin Xian's eyes flashed. "Don't worry, I know what I am doing." If he were to fight with the chief disciple now, he might not be able to win. After all, his cultivation time was too short. It was only about half a year. However, if it was just one sword skill, he was confident that he could handle it. Otherwise, how could he defeat Lin Feng? "Good job, little brother. I have faith in you. There are no cowards in Yunzhou." Some of the outspoken martial artists shouted, "A bunch of idiots." The malicious young man sneered. The young man in white robe also had a strange look. He said indifferently, "Your courage is commendable. However, whether you can survive or not will depend on your luck." He didn't pull out the long sword at his waist. Instead, he raised his hand slightly. Suddenly, a blue light covered his hand. A cold wind blew and snowflakes fell from the sky. The temperature of the entire space suddenly dropped. It was as if winter had arrived. Ka ka ka. In the hands of the young man in white robe, blue ice constantly appeared. In a moment, it formed a 3 feet long ice sword. Cold air surrounded it, and cold light flashed. In the next moment, the ice sword was aimed at Lin Xian. Chapter 105. The azure ice sword was pointed at Lin Xian, its cold light flickering. Lin Xian slightly exerted force. A golden lightning sword appeared on his sword finger. Golden arcs of lightning danced, emitting a terrifying power. You're the first person to be able to transform at the 8th stage of the meridian condensing stage. You're worthy of me taking action. The white-robed youth in Shaoli's voice was cold as he stabbed out with the ice sword. As soon as his sword struck out, blue frost quickly spread from his feet to the surroundings. The entire floor of the 2nd floor was covered with glass-like blue ice crystals. The surrounding martial artists all channeled their spirit power to dissolve the chill. When they looked at the ice sword, they all subconsciously screamed. Because what they saw wasn't a sword, but an ice field, a 10,000-year-old ice mountain. The ice sword had also transformed into an ice dragon with cold light, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Its momentum was shocking. Lin Xian also fell into an illusion. However, he knew better than anyone that this wasn't an illusion, but sword force. Ice sword force. If the white-robed youth used his cultivation to his advantage, then Lin Xian wouldn't be able to receive this strike. But now, he was actually competing with Lin Xian in sword force. He was undoubtedly asking for trouble. Lin Xian swung out his long sword. The aura on his body suddenly changed, as if a peerless divine sword had awakened. That sharp aura made people's hearts tremble. Golden light streaked through the air. The sharp sword light pierced into the world of ice. Suddenly, the ice mountain collapsed and the earth split open. It was as if the end of the world was coming. Everything was shattering. The white-robed youth frowned. He felt a powerful destructive power. This power actually made the ice sword in his hand tremble. How could this be? The white-robed youth in Shaoli's mind trembled. However, he didn't have time to think because the world of ice was about to shatter. Azure spirit power gushed out. The powerful aura of the spirit sea realm surged in the air. The world of ice, supported by the power, quickly recovered and became incomparably stable. The ice frost sword dragon roared savagely and rushed over. It was about to swallow Lin Xian. Is this the power of the Sea of Soul's realm? Lin Xian was excited. Under the effect of his soul force, his eyes blossomed with an orange light. In Shaoli's movements, aura, and even the spiritual energy in his body were clearly imprinted in Lin Xian's eyes. If the spirit power of a pulse condensation realm martial artist was compared to a river, then the spirit power of a spirit sea realm martial artist was the ocean. No matter how turbulent the river was, it could never compare to the ocean. The 9 meridians gathered, converging into a spiritual sea. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He could already see his future path, and he believed that he would be able to enter this realm soon. Facing the silver ice dragon, Lin Xian's eyes flashed with a sword-shaped light. His aura rose once again, like a thundercloud in the 9th heaven that had been accumulating for countless years. It was released in an instant. A terrifying sword intent swept out in all directions, instantly drowning the silver ice dragon. Then, the entire ice field was torn apart by this terrifying sword intent. At this moment, the weapons of the surrounding martial artists were all trembling and buzzing. Among them, the long sword could not help but fly out of its sheath. What's going on? Many martial artists struggled to hold onto their swords, their eyes filled with fear. The white-robed youth, in Shaoli, revealed a shocked expression for the first time. The ice sword in his hand had already shattered, and the blue sword at his waist was also letting out a sword cry. It seemed to be afraid, but also excited. Lin Xian's black hair fluttered, and his clothes fluttered. A terrifying sword intent was emitted from his body. Not only on the 2nd floor, but all the martial artists in the Four Seas restaurant felt this shocking aura. 10,000 swords cried together. This is sword intent. In Shaoli was shocked, and the snow-seeking sect disciples behind him were even more shocked as they looked at Lin Xian. Sword intent? It really is sword intent. Could he be that disciple of the Black Sky sect? Everyone's gaze towards Lin Xian changed, and all kinds of emotions appeared. Sword intent, a mysterious realm that all swordsmen wanted to reach. It only existed in legends before, but now it had appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The sharp aura disappeared, and it all returned to Lin Xian's body, as if it had never appeared. Lin Xian sighed in his heart. Just now, under Shaoli's stimulation, his half-step sword intent had reached an unprecedented level, as if it could break through and become a true sword intent at any time. However, at this crucial moment, Shaoli was defeated. Even so, his sword intent had still improved, and he was getting closer and closer to the true sword intent. No, this is only half-step sword intent. It's still a bit away from the true sword intent. Shaoli's expression was serious. I've seen the true sword intent once. Just a look could cut through everything. Lin Xian was surprised. Could it be that he was a disciple of a 2-star sect? His knowledge was extraordinary. Shaoli, how may I address you? Lin Xian. Shaoli murmured, I'll remember you. We'll have a battle on the hidden dragon rank someday. Shaoli left with the disciples of the snow-seeking sect. He was not in a hurry to make a move. With Lin Xian's talent, he would soon enter the hidden dragon rank. At that time, Lin Xian would be qualified for him to draw his sword. After Shaoli left, the warriors on the 2nd floor started to get close to Lin Xian. Many of them even asked him how to cultivate sword intent. Lin Xian could only smile bitterly and answer them one by one. In the end, Lin Xian left the Four Seas restaurant as if he was running away. He had no choice. Those people were too enthusiastic. Senior sister Hu, senior brother Feng, nice to meet you. See you again. Lin Xian said goodbye to Human. He was going to leave the North Guard city and return to his sect. After saying goodbye to the two, Lin Xian did not leave the city directly. Instead, he went to the general's mansion because he suddenly remembered something. In the simple and elegant hall, General Zheng patted Lin Xian's shoulder generously. Young hero Lin, I heard that you've comprehended sword intent. Congratulations. Lin Xian smiled bitterly. He did not expect the news to spread so quickly. General Zhang, I'm here to tell you something. Lin Xian flipped his palm and a black token appeared in his hand. The word nether was engraved on the front of the token. Behind it was a black dragon bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws. The token emitted a faint, murderous aura. I got this when I killed the black-robed man that day. General Zhang took the token and his face changed when he saw the pattern on it. Nether Hall. No wonder the demon race attacked the Xia. It was the Nether Hall behind all this. General Zheng's face was serious, as if he was very afraid of this so-called Nether Hall. Young hero Lin, you have reported something major. If not for you, I'm afraid we would still be in the dark. I have to report this matter to the higher-ups immediately. It's that serious? Lin Xian was puzzled. He had never heard of the Nether Hall. It's more than just serious. If it's really the Nether Hall, I'm afraid it's not as simple as a demon invasion. General Zhang said in a deep voice. This matter has too many implications. We have to investigate it thoroughly first. Young hero Lin, please forgive me. I have to do this immediately. General Zhang left in a hurry. Lord Alcohol, do you know what's going on? Lin Xian asked with a voice transmission. I only woke up after meeting you. How would I know? Lord Alcohol shook his head. Don't worry. Even if the sky falls, there are tall people to hold it up. You should work hard to raise your cultivation level first. Chapter 106. Rumble. The bronze door slowly opened. Lin Xian looked back at Northgard City before quickly running into the distance. That kid is gone. Inform the Ling family to get rid of him midway. In a corner, two black figures whispered before quickly disappearing into the city. The forest was vast, and tigers roared and apes cried. Lin Xian once again came to the primeval forest. He wasn't in a hurry, but rather casually strolled around the forest, plucking a few herbs from time to time. Once I brew spirit wine, I should be able to reach meridian condensation stage 9, Lin Xian whispered. Lord Alcohol, why don't you teach me how to brew spirit wine? I would like to, but I'm afraid you won't be able to learn it. Lord Alcohol snorted. Are you kidding me? How is that possible? Lin Xian was indignant. You're the one who doesn't want to teach me. Kid, let me teach you something. Lord Alcohol sighed. Brewing wine and refining weapons are actually the same method. This method is called inscription. Inscription? Lin Xian was slightly taken aback. He seemed to have heard of this term in his family, but he couldn't recall it at the moment. Yes, inscription is not only a method, but also a profession, Lord Alcohol said slowly. Lord Alcohol slowly said, people who use special techniques and powerful soul powers to inscribe spirit runes are called inscription masters. I'm afraid you won't be able to find an inscription master in the cloud state. It's normal that you haven't heard of it. Lord Alcohol sighed. When you condense a soul seal, I'll teach you the art of inscription. The soul seal? Lord Alcohol explained. The soul force in your mind is stimulated by sword intent, so I'll call it a sword soul for now. When your sword soul can condense a sword talisman, I'll teach you. The sword talisman's imprint is the so-called soul seal. Lin Xian nodded, not fully understanding. It seemed like the art of the soul was broad and profound, and he still needed to study it more. Your current body is barely enough for another trial, Lord Alcohol said with a smile. Take out the crimson flame broadsword. Oh, Lin Xian flicked his finger, and a dark red broadsword appeared in his hand. The true purpose of this greatsword isn't to directly slash people. Lord Alcohol smiled mysteriously. If it's not slashing people, then what is it? Lin Xian scratched his head. Strengthening the body? Lord Alcohol was surprised. You know? Lin Xian pursed his lips. Didn't you ask me to carry it on my back in the past? But this weight is useless to me now. It doesn't work. Lord Alcohol scoffed. Do you see the rune on it? It's the fiery red brand. Lin Xian discovered that there was a fiery red rune under the sword hilt. but most of it was blocked by rust. Use your soul power and slowly pour it in. Something magical will happen. Lin Xian was skeptical. He mobilized his soul force and tried to touch the fiery red mark. The moment he touched it, there was a loud bang, and a huge force suddenly appeared around him, causing his body to tremble and almost fall. Damn, why is it so heavy? He quickly circulated his spirit energy as his body emitted light to resist the inexplicable force. The ground within a 3-meter radius caved in. Even some trees were reduced to powder and scattered across the ground. This force, Lin Xian was stunned before he exclaimed, "Tenfold gravity." He had experienced tenfold gravity at the end of the first stage of the intersect test. It was a feeling worse than death. That's right. It's indeed tenfold gravity. Carry it on your back and cultivate. Lord Alcohol smiled sinisterly. I'm thirsty. I'll refine some spirit wine first. Lin Xian's mouth twitched. Carry it. What a joke. He silently sensed it and realized that the spirit energy in his body was rapidly depleting. It wouldn't be long before he was exhausted. I'm going all out. Lin Xian gritted his teeth. That guy is already 5th on the hidden dragon list. If I don't work hard, I won't have any chance of winning. Thinking of his opponent, Lin Xian gritted his teeth and persevered. He pulled out the fiery red broadsword and carried it on his back with great difficulty. He exerted strength with both hands as all the spirit energy in his body trembled. Kacha! The fiery red broadsword slowly moved before rising bit by bit. Finally, Lin Xian lifted it into the air. During this process, his arms trembled incessantly as though they could fall off at any moment. Phew! Phew! Finally, Lin Xian carried the fiery red broadsword on his back. It felt as though he was carrying a mountain on his back. It was extremely heavy. His back remained bent, and he couldn't straighten it at all. Sweat streamed down his face like a stream. Bam! Bam! With every step he took, the ground cracked like a spiderweb before it caved in deeply. Lin Xian's knees were almost buried in the ground. Although it was very difficult, he didn't give up. He continued walking step by step. He even had to rest for a long period of time after every step. Inside his body, Lord Alcohol nodded slightly when he saw this scene. Then, he muttered to himself, if you don't strengthen your tiny body, how will you be able to drink the spirit wine I prepared for you? Work hard, young man. Lin Xian took 20 steps with great difficulty. All the spirit energy in his body was depleted. He realized that it wasn't just the effects of the tenfold gravity. The dark red broadsword was also constantly suppressing his spirit energy, making him feel suffocated. Bam! Lin Xian stabbed the long sword into the ground. The entire sword was almost completely buried in the ground. Lin Xian sat down cross-legged within 10 feet of the sword and began to recover. His spirit energy, which was originally circulating very quickly, had become abnormally slow. He wasn't anxious. Instead, he gradually recovered from his shock and anger and calmly began cultivating. An hour later, the spirit energy in his body was restored to its original state. Again, Lin Xian bellowed as he carried the fiery red broadsword on his back again. After taking a few steps, his heart suddenly jolted as a strong sense of danger surged in his heart. Quickly using his soul power, he could clearly sense that there was a black arrow flying at him from behind. Phantom thunder steps. Lin Xian bellowed as a golden glow appeared beneath his feet. His body moved horizontally. However, to outsiders, Lin Xian had only taken a step to the left. Damned wait! Lin Xian cursed under his breath. He moved his body again and narrowly dodged the arrow. Chi! There was a tear in his clothes, revealing his strong muscles. Imph! I thought he was a powerful figure, but I didn't expect him to be so useless. Even dodging an arrow is so difficult. For such a piece of trash, you actually sent us brothers. What a joke. A few disdainful voices came from behind. Lin Xian slowly turned around and saw 5 black-clothed men standing in front of him. 3 of them were at Meridian Condensation Stage 8, and 2 were at Meridian Condensation Stage 9. Xiao Xuanzi, don't take off your broadsword. Lord Alcohol's voice sounded from the bottom of his heart. It sounded very casual. Lin Xian's face fell as his expression turned ugly. Are you trying to play me to death? No one answered. Lin Xian cursed in exasperation. When the black-clothed men saw his expression, they misunderstood. Look, he's afraid. I'm dying of laughter. It's best to get rid of this piece of trash as soon as possible. It's embarrassing to live on. Let me do it. It's been a long time since I've met such a piece of trash. Let me have a good time. A meridian condensation stage 8 black-clothed man walked out with a sinister smile. He pulled out a dagger that emitted a cold light and charged at Lin Xian. Chapter 107. The black-clothed warrior ran forward quickly and turned into a ray of light in the air. Swoosh, swoosh. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Lin Xian and swung the dagger in his hand. However, before he could make a move, the tenfold pressure engulfed him. The black-clothed man was caught off guard and was pressed to the ground. Humph! Lin Xian quickly followed up with a kick, stomping the man's head into the mud. Blood gushed out from the wound. What? The black-clothed men in the distance were all stunned. They did not know what had happened and only saw their men rushing over quickly and then lying on the ground, waiting to be abused. Damn it! It's so evil. A black-clothed warrior cursed. Does this kid know evil techniques? For a moment, the 4 black-clothed warriors did not dare to act rashly. You go and try. A rank 8 warrior was pushed to the front. The black-clothed warrior walked forward with a sullen face. He cautiously circulated his spirit power to the maximum and covered himself with a thick defense before rushing over. Bang! The moment he approached, he also felt a huge pressure. Although he activated his defense, he was still hit to the ground by the pressure. In the end, Lin Xian's sword intent flashed and pierced through the black-clothed warrior. Hiss! The remaining 3 black-clothed warriors gasped. This time, they saw clearly that anyone who was within 3 feet of Lin Xian would be attacked inexplicably. Attack from afar. The 3 black-clothed warriors reached an agreement. Kid, even if we have to exhaust you, we will exhaust you to death. The leading black-clothed warrior sneered. Lin Xian did not move and remained standing in the same place. He asked tentatively, Lingze sent you? Yes, so what if I tell you? Anyway, you can't escape today. The 3 black-clothed warriors moved forward cautiously and then continuously slashed out saber and sword aura. There were also palm shadows that filled the sky. A vast amount of energy surged towards Lin Xian. Damn, you really think I'm easy to bully? Lin Xian used all his strength and threw out the long sword behind him. Boom! The area of 10 times gravity crashed down, and the bodies of the 3 men in black were instantly bent. How is this possible? He has always been under this kind of gravity. The black-clothed man's face was completely pale. It's too scary. This kind of gravity isn't something that humans can withstand. The 3 black-clothed men struggled to escape. However, Lin Xian would not give them the chance. The moment he threw out the crimson flame greatsword, a sword ray shot out from his fingertips. It was dazzling and filled with killing intent. Puff! The sword chi was like a rainbow, surging in the air, instantly splitting the rank 8 warrior in half. No! The remaining 2 black men roared. Their eyes were filled with anger as they stared hatefully at Lin Xian. At the same time, they circulated their spiritual energy and fled. Wong, Wong, Wong. If you want to kill, then you must be prepared to be killed. Lin Xian waved his arm. Sword chi soared into the sky, turning into a dazzling waterfall that slashed towards the 2. Bang! The long sword chi struck the black-clothed man's body, piercing through his protective shield. Suddenly, 10 times the pressure swarmed up, wanting to swallow him whole. Sooner or later, I will step into the Ling family and kill Lingze with my own hands. Lin Xian's black hair fluttered as the sword chi flew around him. You want to go against the Ling family? Too naive. Our Ling family is a big family in Yunzhou. Is that so? Lin Xian's mouth curved. His body's sword chi soared into the sky. The powerful sword chi swept in all directions, terrifying everyone. The 2 black-clothed men trembled as if they could not withstand this kind of will. Their whole body froze in place. Sword Chi, this is Sword Chi. Damn it. How can he have this kind of thing? The two men roared crazily. Looks like you didn't enter Northgard City. What a pity. Lin Xian's eyes were like lightning. He waved two rays of Sword Chi and pierced through the two men. Under 10 times the pressure and facing the terrifying Sword Chi, the two men did not even try to dodge. Their bodies collapsed weakly. My Sword Chi is getting more and more skillful. Lin Xian felt the sharp aura and was filled with confidence. Pulling out the crimson flame sword, Lin Xian carried it on his back with difficulty. Then, he walked silently into the distance. Half a month later, in front of a silver waterfall, a figure sat cross-legged under the waterfall. His strong muscles glowed in the water as if they were filled with power. As expected of the body-strengthening marrow-cleansing wine, its effects are so good. This is the lowest grade. I have a lot of spirit wine here. Another voice sounded out of nowhere. It was very ethereal. This figure was Lin Xian. Ever since he finished off the Wanling family's warrior, he had been cultivating while carrying 10 times the gravity. Later, Lord Alcohol refined a spirit wine that was very effective in strengthening the body. Lin Xian drank it every day. Not only did it strengthen his muscles, but it also strengthened his meridians, organs, and other important organs. Even if his current body was compared to a martial artist who specialized in body refinement, he would still win by 30%. Looking at the time, it's about time to go back. Lin Xian jumped out of the water and put on a black robe. Then, he quickly carried the crimson flame sword on his back and ran into the distance. 3 days later, he returned to the Black Heaven sect. Putting away the crimson flame sword, Lin Xian walked in. Without the shackles of 10 times the gravity, he felt as light as a feather, as if he did not exist. With a slight force, Lin Xian lightly stepped on the ground. His body shot out like a bolt of lightning. His speed was extremely fast. Whoosh! A bolt of lightning flashed, bringing with it gusts of wind. The surrounding disciples did not notice Lin Xian's figure at all. They only looked around in confusion. Moments later, Lin Xian arrived at the herbal hall. He handed in the mission and received his reward. On the way, he heard many disciples enthusiastically discussing some trial ground. Those people's expressions were filled with excitement. Lin Xian asked out of curiosity. He found out that the trial ground they were talking about was a secret realm in the cloud state. It was equivalent to a small independent space. There were all kinds of rare herbs, cultivation techniques, and weapons. It could be said to be a paradise. It's that good? Lin Xian was puzzled. The disciples explained to him, although it's good, it's extremely dangerous inside. Not only are there powerful demonic beasts, there are also some traps and arrays. Moreover, we have to prevent other sect disciples from attacking. It could be said that danger and opportunity coexisted. I see. Lin Xian understood. He continued to ask, are there any conditions to participate in this trial? The disciple looked at Lin Xian in surprise and said, every sect has a limited number of spots. I estimate that you need to at least have the strength of a core disciple. Core disciple? Lin Xian smiled. He originally wanted to challenge a core disciple, but now it seemed that he had to speed up. According to the disciples, the trial of blood would be held in a month. I'll go challenge the trial tower first. Lin Xian made up his mind. His body turned into an afterimage as he ran toward the trial tower. In fact, it was not only Lin Xian. The other disciples in the Black Heaven sect were also carefully preparing. Many of them were going to challenge a core disciple and win a spot in the trial. On this day, a piece of news exploded in the Black Heaven sect's inner sect. Chapter 108. On the ranking stone tablet, a name quickly rose and soon broke through the top 100. After entering the top 100, not only did this name not fall, but it also rose at an even faster speed. After this phenomenon occurred, the entire inner sect was alarmed. Many disciples ran over, wanting to witness the moment of the miracle with their own eyes. This name was naturally Lin Xian. With his current strength, entering the cultivation pagoda was no pressure at all. He quickly passed through all the stages. However, his casual actions caused a huge commotion. It moved. It moved. In front of the stone tablet, many disciples exclaimed, This Lin Xian has already broken through the top 50, and it's still continuing. This is too terrifying. It's already very good for the previous disciples to rise by 1 or 2 ranks, but he actually rose by several hundred ranks. This is too heaven-defying. I'm afraid that even the core disciples don't have this kind of speed. Is this Lin Xian the one who condensed sword intent? A group of disciples chattered and discussed nonstop. In the crowd, Ling Zhe saw this scene and almost fainted. This time, he had sent enough people to deal with the core disciples. But Lin Xian was actually still alive. Not only was he alive, but he also caused such a terrifying impact. Ling Zhe's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He realized that he seemed to have provoked someone he shouldn't provoke. Similarly, Fan Qiong was also shocked. He was silently watching everything from afar. Lin Xian's performance caused him to have a deep fear. What he wanted to do now was not to deal with Lin Xian, but to prevent Lin Xian from dealing with him. 20. He entered the top 20. The disciples exclaimed, 17, 15, 13, 11. It stopped. Lin Xian's name finally stopped at 11. Other than the core disciples, Lin Xian's name was ranked first. In the cultivation pagoda, Lin Xian slowly exhaled. Fighting so many at once, even he was a bit tired. Moreover, the difficulty of the following tests increased by a lot. But if he wanted to continue, he could definitely pass. But he didn't want to do so. The rest were all core disciples. He wanted to personally defeat them and not use this kind of virtual ranking. The change in Lin Xian's ranking not only stirred up the crowd of inner court disciples, but also some elders. Murong Qianling personally went to the cultivation pagoda to wait for Lin Xian. When Lin Xian walked out of the cultivation pagoda, he saw Murong Qianling at first glance. She was like a cold snow lotus, her entire body exuding a unique aura, causing people to sink into her with a single glance. Instructor Murong. Lin Xian smiled. Are you waiting for me? That's right. Murong Qianling's voice was cold. Lin Xian was stunned. He was just joking, but he didn't expect that he would be right. Come with me. Murong Qianling was a woman of few words. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and left. Lin Xian could only follow behind her. When they arrived at the training grounds, Murong Qianling stopped. Her limpid eyes glanced at Lin Xian and asked, Do you know about the trial grounds? I just heard about it. I'm preparing to fight for a spot. Lin Xian nodded. I didn't expect your progress to be so fast. Originally, the elders wanted to train you properly and let you enter next time. But now it seems that the plan will have to change. Lin Xian rubbed his nose and said, I can't wait for next time. I must enter this time. I know. That's why I came here this time to tell you the rules of the trial grounds. Murong Qianling stroked her hair and continued. The trial grounds is an independent space in the cloud region. Only disciples with a bone age of 24 years old and below are allowed to enter. In principle, it's guarded by the 3 sections. But the other families in the cloud region also have some spots. Each of the 3 sects has 15 spots. The other families more or less have some spots. In the Black Sky sect, 5 spots are predetermined. As for the remaining 10 spots, many disciples will fight for them. Of course, if you don't have the strength of a core disciple, I'm afraid you won't be able to fight for it. Murong Qianling smiled slightly. With your strength, challenging a core disciple isn't difficult. But I have to remind you that although there are countless treasures in the trial grounds, it's also extremely dangerous. If you're not careful, you'll fall. You have to think carefully. Thank you, Instructor Murong. I understand. Lin Xian's eyes were firm, and he didn't shrink back. Instructor, I wonder which 2 core disciples are Elder Shui's disciples? Lin Xian suddenly asked. The 5th and 7th. Murong Qianling looked at him with deep meaning. Then, the corner of her mouth slightly rose. Her heart actually had a trace of indescribable expectation. The next day, Lin Xian did something that caused a sensation in the inner court. He challenged a core disciple. When his words came out, the entire inner court boiled over. During this period of time, everything related to Lin Xian had exceeded everyone's expectations. First, he fought Zhang Qian on the life and death arena. In a situation where no one was optimistic, he killed Zhang Qian and confronted an elder in front of everyone. Not only that, He also comprehended the legendary sword intent, and his strength greatly increased. After returning to the sect, he challenged the cultivation pagoda and directly rushed to the front of the inner court disciples. He became the first person besides the core disciples. And now, Lin Xian finally began to challenge the core disciples. Who will he challenge? Everyone guessed. I guess it should be the last two. A disciple analyzed, although Lin Xian is valiant, his cultivation is only at the 8th level of the meridian condensing stage. There is still a large gap between him and a core disciple. Many people agreed with his opinion. For a moment, the 10th and 9th place fell into a huge pressure. The 9th place was Fan Chong. After he heard the news, he became restless. During the mission in Mountain Overlook City, he had seen Lin Xian's strength with his own eyes. In addition, it was rumored that he had fought with the hidden dragon rankings in Shaoli. All of this made Fan Chong feel a great fear. Finally, he couldn't hold back and decided to do something. Taking out some treasures from his collection, Fan Chong put on a black cloak and waited for night to fall. He quietly went to Lin Xian's residence. Lin Xian was resting when he heard a knock on the door. He quickly opened it. In the next moment, he looked at the person outside the door in a daze. The person was wearing a black cloak and seemed mysterious. "You are Junior Apprentice Brother Lin. It's me." The voice was low and slightly trembling. After he said this, he took off his cloak and revealed a pale face. Fan Chong? Lin Xian was stunned. What was this guy doing? Making himself look so wretched. "So it's Senior Apprentice Brother Fan," Lin Xian lazily said. "What business does Senior Apprentice Brother Fan have with me?" "Junior Apprentice Brother Lin, let's talk inside." Fan Chong's face was hot, and he became bashful. Lin Xian shrugged and let him in. The current Lin Xian had absolute confidence and wasn't afraid of Fan Chong playing any tricks. Fan Chong quickly entered the room and looked around. After confirming that there was no one else, he let out a sigh of relief. Then, he took out a pile of things. Chapter 109. Lin Xian's table was filled with weapons, pills, and other cultivation resources. He looked at Fan Chong with a strange expression, trying to hold back the smile on his face. He never would have thought that the insufferably arrogant core disciple would actually try to curry favor with him. "Lin, Junior Brother Lin, I've offended you in the past. I hope you don't take it to heart." Fan Chong awkwardly rubbed his hands. If it weren't for the trial of blood and fire, he wouldn't have said those words even if he was beaten to death. Since Senior Brother is so sincere, then I'll let bygones be bygones, Lin Xian said with a smile. "That's great." Fan Chong's face lit up. "I heard that Junior Brother Lin wants to challenge a core disciple. I wonder. So it's about that." Lin Xian saw Fan Chong's expression and immediately understood. He was afraid of losing the core disciple position. "I've already thought of the person I want to challenge." Lin Xian deliberately looked at Fan Chong. Seeing Lin Xian's gaze, Fan Chong's heart was in his mouth again. He bitterly asked, "Who is it? It can't be me, right?" "What a coincidence." Lin Xian laughed. "It really isn't you." Phew. Fan Chong was like a deflated balloon, letting out a big sigh of relief. "I wonder who Junior Brother Lin wants to challenge. I don't dare to say anything else, but I do know a bit about the core disciples," Fan Chong said as he patted his chest. Lin Xian's heart was slightly happy. He just wanted to find someone to understand. This Fan Chong was perfect. "How much do you know about the 5th and 7th place?" Lin Xian asked. Fan Chong looked at Lin Xian with a strange expression. He didn't expect him to challenge two people. This was something that had never happened before. Suddenly, he seemed to understand something, and his face became even more terrified. "Aren't the 5th and 7th Elder Shui's disciples? I heard that Lin Xian and Elder Shui had a conflict before. Now it seems that it's true." Fan Chong actually felt a trace of fluke in his heart. "Fortunately, I had the foresight to come here in advance and make our grudges clear. Otherwise, I'm afraid that this fellow would also challenge me." Thinking that he had almost lost his core disciple status, Fan Chong felt a burst of fear. Taking a deep breath, Fan Chong said in a deep voice, "The 7th disciple is called Dong Ing. He specializes in speed and practices the high-grade profound class martial art, Shadowless Step. He also knows a high-grade leg skill, Ghost Lion Chain Kick. The fifth disciple is Zhao Ziqing, a body-refining martial artist. He has practiced the Iron Body Secret Art, a profound stage master. His body is extremely strong, and no sword can penetrate it. These two are both at the peak of 9th stage Ningmai. They cannot be underestimated. Lin Xian asked the other core disciples a few more questions before sending Fan Chong away. After grasping the characteristics and skills of the two, Lin Xian had a greater assurance in his heart. 2 days later, Lin Xian moved out. Within the Black Heaven sect, the mountain peaks were beautiful, and there were many places with pavilions. In one of the pavilions, a young man with slightly dark skin was surrounded by a group of young boys and girls, arrogantly saying something. At this moment, a clear voice sounded, "You are Dong Ying?" The young man with a face full of pride froze, his eyes quickly sweeping the surroundings as he asked in a deep voice, "Who is it? Get out here." "Humph, quite the temper. I wonder how strong you are." The voice was like a cool breeze, echoing in the surroundings. "See you on the challenge platform." As the voice fell, a branch flew out and floated into the pavilion. Just as the branch was about to fall, the leaves on the branch suddenly vibrated, as if countless small fish were flying out and nailing themselves to the stone pillar. The emerald green leaves formed 2 words, Lin Xian. Lin Xian. He wants to challenge senior brother Dong. The group of youths exclaimed, then quickly looked at the dark-faced young man, only to see the latter frowning deeply. Black Heaven Sect, Inner Sect Challenge Platform. Lin Xian was dressed in a black robe, standing quietly on the platform. The news had been released, and more people had rushed here, including many core disciples. After all, this was a competition between core disciples, and the results were very important. Among them, the 3rd-ranked Tang Yi and 4th-ranked Xiang Chun had arrived early. In the end, almost all the core disciples except for the first 2 were present. Zhao Ziqing, who was ranked 5th, was also surrounded by a group of people and stood to the side. Lin Xian glanced at Zhao Ziqing and chuckled softly. "Dong Ying is not here yet. Why don't you come up and spar with me? It's only a matter of time anyway." His tone was very relaxed, as if he did not take the 2 of them seriously at all. However, his words caused a stir in the crowd's ears. "What? Did I hear wrongly? He's challenging Zhao Ziqing? Isn't he going to fight Dong Ying? Does he want to challenge both of them?" Thinking of this, all the disciples gasped. This is too crazy. It was not that one could not challenge consecutively, but in fact, almost no one would do that. After one challenge, they would basically be exhausted. So how could they fight a second time? "Brat, keep bragging. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? You're courting death, you're courting death. I can't take it anymore." Many disciples who supported Zhao Ziqing cursed, most of them ridiculing Lin Xian. After all, he was a core disciple, and he had many underlings under him. "Senior brother Zhao doesn't need to do anything. I can take care of you alone." A figure quickly rushed over from afar. It was as if a purple cloud was floating in the air. This person's feet did not touch the ground, and he stepped continuously in the air as if he was walking on air. However, everyone knew that this was not flying, but an extremely high level of lightness skill. In an instant, this figure landed on the platform and won a lot of applause. "Good, that's beautiful. Stepping on air, that's stepping on air. This is too shocking." Many disciples cried out one after another in surprise. Of course, the one who had such lightness skill was Dong Ying. He elegantly landed on the platform and looked down at Lin Xian. "Brat, you dare to challenge me, you're dead. Last time, you actually dared to talk back to my master in public. See how I'll take care of you." Dong Ying's eyes flashed with a cold light, like a poisonous snake. "Cut the crap, come here and die." Lin Xian was like a peerless king. His black hair fluttered, his eyes were like lightning, and there was a sharp aura around him. "You're courting death," Dong Ying angrily shouted. His feet stepped on the ground, and his body suddenly disappeared. So fast, many inner disciples could not see Dong Ying's movements clearly. Only a few disciples with high cultivation and core disciples could see the situation in the arena. Lin Xian's eyes flashed, and an orange light appeared in his eyes. Purple Spirit Eyes was backed by powerful soul force and could see all illusions. Of course, he could see Dong Ying's movements clearly. In his eyes, Dong Ying's movements were very clear. Under the effect of Purple Spirit Eyes, Dong Ying's movements were much slower, as if he was moving in slow motion. Taking 3 steps back, Lin Xian's face was calm. In the next moment, at the place where he was standing, there was a strong sound of wind, and Dong Ying's figure appeared. He actually dodged it? Dong Ying was slightly stunned, and then disappeared again. Impossible. He must have guessed it. Guessed it. Go Senior Dong. Kick him to death. Below, a group of underlings cheered, as if Dong Ying had already won. Lin Xian's eyes flashed with orange light, and the corner of his mouth rose again. Dong Ying's proud movement skill was completely exposed in his eyes. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.